The anklet, still warm from Ava's skin, quickly went cold in my hand. I felt like I'd given her a flash of false hope, a scene from a script that was never meant to be filmed. This was not how New Year's Eve was supposed to go. I slid the anklet back into my pocket and turned around. Micah was still standing right where I'd left her. The wind whipped strands of her hair across her face, and in the bitter cold of the night, she looked impossibly fragile. I walked toward her, my steps heavy, but I didn't think she'd be upset about what she'd just seen. We had never truly begun, so we couldn't be burdened by the things that weigh on lovers. I stopped in front of her and managed a weak smile. "It's freezing out here. Why are you still standing outside?" "The wind from the sky, no matter how cold, only chills your skin," she said, her voice quiet but clear. "It's the winds people stir up that freeze you to the bone." I was still caught in the daze of the moment with Ava, and it took me a second to process her words. What am I supposed to make of that? Make of it whatever you want. But we should go back inside. A lot of customers are waiting to have a drink with the owner of the bar. She paused. "I came out to get you for them." Oh, was all I could manage. She had already lowered her head and was walking back toward the bar. I watched her go, then glanced up at the sky. The ceaseless explosions of fireworks blocked my view of anything beyond, so my gaze lingered on their flashing brilliance. I felt dizzy, and in that dizziness, the cold finally pierced through my jacket, a chill that went straight to my bones. I pulled my collar tighter and lit a cigarette. It seemed the warm winds of spring weren't coming for me tonight. My heart felt trapped by some unknown force in the dead of winter, and time itself couldn't pull me out and into the spring that was so tantalizingly close. That night, I got blackout drunk. I have no idea how I even made it home until the crackle of firecrackers woke me the next morning. New Year's Day. I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time before it hit me. I was supposed to be driving back to Indianapolis today, back to wish the warden and my mom a happy new year. I imagined them waiting for me, and for Micah. I threw on my clothes, didn't even bother to wash my face, and went straight to Micah's door. I knocked and called out, "Happy New Year. Happy New Year. You up yet?" Silence. I tried the doorknob and found it locked. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. I scrambled through a junk drawer, found a master key, and opened the door. The room was empty. The comforter on the bed was folded neatly. She wasn't here. Maybe she'd left right after getting me home last night. And just like that, I understood what she meant. It's the winds people stir up that freeze you to the bone. I understood that my unresolved mess with Ava had stung her, and so on the first day of the new year, she had chosen to get away from me. But where did she go? I walked back to my room, feeling a deep sense of defeat. I picked up my phone to call her and saw a note tucked underneath it on the nightstand. I pulled it out. Just as I'd expected, it was from her. "Leo, I went to my uncle's for the holiday. Happy New Year. Please wish your parents a Happy New Year for me, too." Below the words was a hand-drawn, smiley face. I felt my heart crack, and a delayed, unstoppable wave of pain washed over me. I got it now. Her pride wouldn't let her tolerate a single grain of sand in her eye. Her insecurity made her sensitive and suspicious. She was just like me, hiding behind a self-made wall to keep love out. She wanted to get closer, but she was afraid of getting close to someone who wasn't. Pure. All my anxieties, all my feelings of inadequacy, they weren't just in my head. My pain came from the fact that I was falling for her, but I wasn't the man she needed. I folded the note and put it away. It was barely dawn, but I lit a cigarette and lay back on the bed, smoking. I didn't feel the need to explain anything to her, because she hadn't accused me of anything. Besides, what's the point of a love that has to be held together by constant explanations? In that moment, I suddenly let go of any expectations I had for Micah. It was better this way. We could just wordlessly forget the fragile thing that had been growing between us and just be friends. After making that decision, it felt like a heavy weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I stubbed out the cigarette, opened WhatsApp, and replied to her. "Happy New Year to you, too. Let's connect when you're back in Portland." Message sent. I put the phone in my pocket, threw a few things in a bag, and got into my Chevy Spark, heading for Indianapolis. The long drive was lonely. There was a hollow ache of regret in my chest, but also a strange sense of relief. What happened with Ava last night had been a wake-up call, forcing me to see myself clearly. Who was I to tarnish Micah's purity with my messy past, with a body that had been with so many other women? If I had a city in the sky, a place of crystal clarity in my heart, then she definitely had one, too, and I had no right to be the man living in hers. If I truly cared about her, I should have the self-awareness to just stand guard her side, quietly, until she met the man she was supposed to spend her life with. It was 2 in the afternoon when I finally rolled into the familiar streets of Indianapolis. I stood at my front door, hesitating. I told the warden I was bringing Micah. Now I'd broken my promise. He was going to be disappointed. After a full minute, I finally rang the bell. My mom opened the door. She looked left then right. Leo, your father said you were bringing a dependable girl home for me to meet. Where is she? I just gave her a hug, grinning. Happy New Year, Mom. I missed you. She pushed me away, but the anger had already left her face. You, she said with a sigh of resignation. All that time in Portland, and you haven't gotten one bit more dependable. I know. That's why I can't ever seem to find a dependable girl. She sighed again. Oh, what am I going to do with you? Get inside. I'll go heat up some food. I walked in to find the warden on the couch, watching a replay of Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve. He saw me, instinctively glanced behind me, then put down the remote. Where's Micah? I thought you were coming back together. I kept the grin plastered on my face. Yeah, well, she had a last-minute thing. Went to her uncle's for the holiday. It's good, you know? Better for her to be with family than to come all the way out here. My overly deliberate explanation made the warden frown. For a man who is usually so stoic, his expression held more disappointment than my mom's had. It made me realize something. Ever since my disastrous relationship with Liz, my mom had been wary of any other girl. But the warden had always approved of Micah. It was a point of disagreement between them, and that disagreement was putting even more pressure on me. Because as things stood now, it seemed impossible for me to be with either Liz or Micah. And beyond all that, the most pressing thing on my mind was how to get that guitar back and return it to Ava. I sat at the table, devouring the food my mom had heated up for me. She sat across from me, watching, while the warden stayed on the couch, his eyes glued to the TV. If the heart doesn't move, it doesn't hurt. I refused to let my mood spoil my appetite, letting hunger take over as I shoveled food into my mouth. Leo, my mom finally said, do you know how old you're now that the new year's here? 27. Good. You haven't lost your mind completely. I stopped chewing and looked at her. Mom, why do you always talk to me like I'm an idiot? Any other day, fine. But is it really necessary on the first day of the new year? If you weren't an idiot, would you have made so many stupid decisions? Tell me, what should a 27-year-old man's life look like? A wife, kids, a stable career. Is that a dependable enough answer? It's dependable, sure. But look at yourself. Do any of those words have anything to do with you right now? I shook my head, my confidence shot. No, but I've been working my ass off, trying to follow that script since the second half of last year. You can't deny me that. I'm not denying it. But I want you to show me the results of all that hard work. Mom, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. How can you expect results so quickly? No matter what I say, you've always got to come back. I don't want to nag you, it's a holiday. So I'll just ask you one thing. Ask away. I promise I'll give you a straight answer. She nodded. Tell me, after you're done with whatever you're doing in Portland, are you planning to come back to Indianapolis for good? Well, I honestly don't know yet. Her face immediately soured. You aimless child. I can't expect you to figure out on your own, so I'll make the decision for you. I'm giving you 2 more months. After that, you're moving back to Indianapolis. Your dad and I will use that time to borrow some money from friends and family, get you a down payment on a house. Then you can settle down here, find a job, and pay your own mortgage. Mom, I can't let you and Dad worry about a house for me. You're too old for that. It's not right. If I'm going to buy a house, I'll figure it out myself. She let out a cold laugh. Figure out yourself? The day housing prices in Indy drop to $200 a square foot, I'd still have to wonder if you could pull it off. I felt my face flush. I knew exactly what she was doing. She was trying to trap me in Indianapolis with a house. If they really bought one, the weight of the mortgage would force me to stay put. But what could I do? The last few disastrous years had completely destroyed my mom's faith in me. I was a failure to the point that no one was willing to give me an ounce of trust. The warden, silent until now, finally spoke up. He turned to my mom. I don't agree with borrowing money for a house. That's something he needs to handle himself. We put him through college. We've done our duty as parents. That's not right, old man, she shot back. We've worked our whole lives for our son, haven't we? Buying him a house isn't about indulging him. It's about putting some pressure on him. Otherwise, he'll never learn to settle down. His path is his own to walk. If you keep holding him up, propping him up, he'll never learn to stand on his own 2 feet. How can you be so relaxed about this? I'm telling you, the reason our son is the way he is now is half your fault for being too lenient. If you had just been a little stricter back then, he and Liz never would have broken up. Such a good girl. It still breaks my heart to think about it. I felt miserable, terrified they were about to have a full-blown fight on New Year's Day because of me. Dad, Mom, please don't fight, I pleaded. Especially not over me. It's not worth it. The warden said nothing. My mom, still fuming, turned to me. Leo, if you don't want to see this family torn apart, you need to get your act together. Now. Okay, Mom, just tell me what getting my act together means. I'll do whatever you say. She sat back down. I'm going to call Liz in a little bit. You two should meet up tonight, have a chat. See where her head is at. I was speechless. A bitter smile crept onto my face. You really think I have a right to see Liz again? You're a grown man. Why are you so worried about appearances? I'm calling her right now. If she says she doesn't want to see you, I won't force you. But if she's willing, you're going out to meet her tonight. Before I could say another word, she had her phone out and was dialing Liz's number. A moment later, the call connected. After a few sentences, my mom handed the phone to me. Liz wants to talk to you. See? A girl has more guts than you do. I was trapped. Of course, Liz didn't have to be timid. She'd never done anything to wrong me. I was the one who owed her everything. I took the phone, my heart pounding. I desperately tried to think of an opening line, but the moment I put the phone to my ear, my mind went blank. I was silent until her voice, both strange and familiar, came through the line. Leo? Are you there? Yeah, that is. I'm here. My first words were a jumbled mess. She laughed. Did Portland steal your ability to form a sentence? Her joke relaxed me a little. I managed a normal tone. No. Happy New Year, Liz. Happy New Year. Silence fell again. With exes, you can't talk about the past, and you can't talk about the future. We had run out of topics. My mom was making frantic gestures at me, and I was desperate to break the awkward silence. I gave in. Are you free tonight? I'd like to buy you a coffee. Liz laughed, but didn't say anything. If you're busy, it's no big deal, I added quickly. Don't feel pressured. I'm free. But you have to tell me, are you showing up empty-handed and expecting me to pay again? Her teasing hit me with a pang of embarrassment and sadness. Liz really was a good person. From our very first date, she had accommodated my poverty and my pathetic state. After a long pause, I said, half joking but completely serious, don't worry. I've actually saved up a little money. If you're willing, I'll buy you coffee until you puke. All right then. 8 o'clock. Same coffee shop. Yeah. See you at 8. After hanging up, I handed the phone back to my mom. She looked at me with an approving expression. Now, that's more like a man. Talk to Liz tonight. Really talk to her. A girl's anger doesn't last forever. If she still has feelings for you, she'll give you a chance. Mom, don't get your hopes up. This date is happening purely because you forced it. I'm sure Liz is just like me, agreeing because she didn't want to disrespect you. I don't care if she's doing it for my sake or not. My point still stands. If Liz is willing to forgive you, you treat her right. If she has no feelings left for you, I won't push it. Mom, that was a truly profound and watertight argument. Stop with the smart mouth. Tonight, you seize this opportunity. I know a little about that girl from Portland. She's not right for you, Leo. Stop dreaming about catching a swan. It's time to bring your heart back home. You understand? Another wave of frustration washed over me. I didn't say anything more. As for Liz, I prefer to think of it as just catching up with an old friend. After surviving my mom's interrogation, I finally escaped to my room. I took out the diamond engagement ring I had once planned to give Liz. I stared at it for a long time, and then I made a decision. I was going to pawn it. Then I was going to go to Gil and buy back the guitar Ava had given me. It was an absurd plan, but my life was already absurd enough. What was one more absurd act? At least this one would allow me to fulfill my promise to Ava. After that, I could face her without any baggage. Seen that way, it didn't seem so absurd after all. At 7 o'clock, I was walking down a crowded, noisy street, swept along by the current of people and dancing lights. I thought about having a cigarette, but decided against it. Instead, I bought a couple of skewers of grilled meat to curb the craving. After finishing the skewers, I bought some small sesame balls. I just kept walking and eating, letting myself forget all the things that were weighing me down, sinking into a world of forced relaxation I'd built for myself. But as I got closer to the coffee shop where I was supposed to meet Liz, that fragile world shattered. I was dragged back into the suffocating reality I hated. I threw the greasy paper bag into a trash can and took a deep breath before heading inside. I tried to picture what Liz looked like now. In my mind, I was sure she would have changed. She was in the same corner as before, wearing a red coat, sipping coffee, and reading a magazine. She looked more poised, more self-possessed than I remembered. I walked up to her table. She looked up, her eyes scanning my face, and then she smiled. You're here. Yeah, walked all the way. Sorry I'm 5 minutes late. It's fine. Sit. I nodded and sat down across from her. To cover the awkwardness of having nothing to say, I ordered and then grabbed a magazine myself. For a full 5 minutes, we didn't exchange a single word. It only confirmed that this meeting was nothing more than an obligation to our parents. Finally, Liz closed her magazine. Leo, are we not going to talk? We're not strangers. I closed mine too and offered a smile. Sure. How have you been? She shook her head. What's wrong? Trouble with something? I'm not shaking my head because things are good or bad. It's because I think you've changed. I don't see that reckless, devil-may-care attitude you had when we first met. Really? What I look like now? You look lost, and there's a kind of defeated helplessness about you. Am I right? I glanced at my reflection in the window. It was just a blurry outline. I couldn't tell if I looked lost or defeated. Liz reached out and wiped a patch of condensation from the glass. Suddenly, my reflection sharpened into focus. Leo, you need to shave, she said, and do something with your hair. I touched my chin. The stubble scratched my hand. I ran a hand through my hair. It felt greasy. A faint smell of stale smoke seemed to be radiating from my clothes. I had to admire my own nerve, showing up for a date with a woman looking this pathetic. I gave her another apologetic smile. A man showing up to a date looking like a mess is a sign of disrespect. But I hadn't thought about it. Maybe because we knew each other so well, or maybe because, subconsciously, I had no desire to impress her. Liz suddenly stood up. Let's go. I looked at her, confused, but I understood in an instant. Our date was over. My pathetic appearance must have killed any interest she had in talking. It was just a meeting to appease our parents, after all. Why pretend it was anything more? I went to the counter to pay, then followed her downstairs. Just as I was about to say goodbye, she was already walking toward the parking garage. I let out a bitter, helpless laugh and sighed to myself. Leo, what the hell have you become? You're driving every woman away like you're the plague. I lit a cigarette and turned to walk toward the other side of the street, but her car pulled up and blocked my path. Liz rolled down the window. Leo, put out the cigarette. I'm taking you to a salon to get cleaned up. Huh? I didn't know what to say, just stared at her, dumbfounded. Get in the car. A man has to have some spirit, especially during the holidays. You can't walk around looking like death warmed over. Liz drove me to a high-end salon in a nearby mall. She flashed a VIP card, and a stylist guided me to a chair. They washed my hair and then began the long process of cutting it and giving me a proper shave. Liz sat beside me the whole time, and we started to chat. This time, I took the initiative. So, you never told me how you've been. She smiled. Same as always. Work, home. A very predictable life. But 2 months is enough time to figure a lot of things out. I knew what 2 months she was talking about. The 2 months since we'd broken up. A bitter taste filled my mouth. After a moment of uncomfortable silence, I asked, what did you figure out? No need to tell you that. Let's talk about your life. How's your friend's bar doing? It's doing okay. Almost on its feet. If work is going well, then you must be looking so down because of a woman, right? She really was a master of client relations, her mind incredibly sharp. She'd seen right through me, but I couldn't exactly talk to her about my romantic problems. I just smiled and said nothing. She didn't press the issue. I'm going to run to a store in the mall, she said, and left for a bit. Under the stylist's skilled hands, I was transformed. At least I didn't look so defeated anymore. Just as he was finishing up, Liz returned with a shopping bag. She looked me over and gave the stylist a satisfied nod of thanks. We left the salon and stood together outside the mall. There was a considerable distance between us, but in the reflection of the storefront window, we looked intimately close. Liz pulled a box of cologne from the bag and handed it to me. This is for you. It's a nice men's fragrance. The scent is light, but it's enough to cover up the smell of smoke. Liz, I feel really bad and awkward about you buying me things. You don't have to feel bad, she said, her tone serious. The cologne plus the salon came to about $95. You remember that I took $200 from you last time? So this was paid for with your own money. Her reminder jolted my memory. When we broke up, she had taken $200 from me. I never knew why. She put the cologne back in a shopping bag and pressed the bag into my hands. Leo, pull yourself together, she said with a smile. Think about the guy you were back in Indianapolis, the one who was so full of life and confidence. To this day, the managers at your old company still regret that you left. Life has its low points. That's not what's scary. What's scary is not having the ability to climb out of them. So I hope you can always stay confident. Be a capable, charismatic man. A wave of emotion I hadn't felt in a long time washed over me, melting something frozen inside my chest. I stared at her for a long time before I could speak. Thank you, Liz. I'm really glad I got the chance to let you fix me up tonight. I'll remember this. Don't thank me. You actually helped me figure some things out, too. So this is just me returning the favor. I was confused. What I possibly helped her figure out. I had already asked, but she wouldn't tell me. There's still $105 in here, she said, pointing to the bag. It can pay for your next meltdown. Of course, I hope you won't need it. I hope so, too. Liz smiled and glanced at her watch. It's getting late. I should head home. Okay, drive safe. She nodded, gave me a little wave, and walked toward the underground parking garage. Watching her leave, I was filled with an indescribable mix of feelings. I felt like I didn't deserve her kindness. And for a moment, I felt a pang of regret about pawning that engagement ring. I got home around 10. The warden was watching TV, and my mom was playing mahjong with a few friends. When she saw me, she quickly had the warden take her spot and pull me into my room, shutting the door. "So, how did it go with Liz tonight?" she asked anxiously. "It was fine." My mom's face fell. "That's a pretty non-committal answer. We really just chatted a bit. You didn't express any desire to get back together?" "Mom," I said, feeling helpless. "We just saw each other for the first time since the breakup. Do you really think it's appropriate to talk about getting back together already?" She finally realized my point. "You're right, but I'm just so worried about you. By the way, did you make plans to see each other again?" "It's the holidays. She's got family to see. We'll figure something out when she has time." "Well, you keep on it. I think that girl still has feelings for you. You can't let her slip away again. And her parents are so reasonable. After that awful thing you did, they never even came to our house to demand an explanation. Any other family would have raised hell with us by now." I know. Go play your game. The warden's skills are no match for yours. We can't have him losing money on New Year's." She ignored my attempt to push her out the door and gave me a few more instructions before finally leaving. I understood how she felt, I really did. But getting back together with Liz was something I had to be extremely careful about. I didn't know what Liz was really thinking, and I was in no state to be the man I was when I lived in Indianapolis. If we got back together and I hurt her again, I'd be worse than an animal. After a quick shower, I lay in bed with nothing to do. I scrolled through my phone for a while, but couldn't think of anyone to contact. So I lit a cigarette and stared at the ceiling. Around 11, my phone, which had been silent all night, finally rang. I grabbed it from the nightstand, a little disappointed to see it was CC. It wasn't the call I was hoping for. I answered, my voice flat. "Happy New Year, CC." "Happy New Year, Leo." I forced a smile. "How's Boston?" "Being with Robin is great. But you, what the hell is going on with you?" "First, the great Chloe jets off to Santa Fe, which I guess makes sense since Micah came back. But then why didn't she go to Indianapolis with you? Why'd she go to her uncle's instead?" I was about to answer when she cut me off. "Wait, don't talk. What I'm most curious about is the guitar. Ava called me this afternoon. She wanted to know why you sold the guitar she gave you to Gil, and why you lied to her and said I'd taken to Boston for Robin." I tried to explain, but she stopped me again. "Leo, just don't talk. I think I figured it out myself. You gave Micah that Taylor guitar, and you must have traded Ava's guitar to Gil to get it, right?" I tried to deny it. "No, the guitar for Micah. I bought that with the money I got from the bar's opening party." "Don't even try. Most of the friends who came that day didn't give you cash gifts. Even if you collected some, how much could it have been? Micah's Taylor is worth almost $3,000. Knowing Gil, he wouldn't have fronted you that much credit unless you bled for it. So you definitely traded Ava's guitar. There's no other way it would have ended up in Gil's hands." I was speechless. After a long moment, I said, "CC, your deductive reasoning skills are good enough to be a detective. You don't have to flatter me. Anyone who isn't a complete idiot could figure this out. Micah doesn't know you swapped the guitars, does she? Just don't tell her. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't. Does it need a reason? All I wanted was to make her happy. That's it. If she finds out, it'll just become another burden for her." "And how are you so sure that knowing the truth would be a burden and not something that would touch her deeply?" "CC, please just stay in Boston and be happy. Stay out of our business, okay?" "Not a chance. Ava called me about this, so now it's my business, and I have to deal with it." "How are you going to deal with it?" "Tell Ava I sold her guitar, just so I could buy one for Micah." "Of course I can't tell Ava that. But what you did was really not okay. If you didn't have the money, you could have just told Micah. Or you could have asked us for a loan. Why did you have to trade that guitar? If I told Micah, she would have ended up paying for it. What would be the point of giving her a gift then? Besides, Gil really loved that guitar. Giving it to him was like giving it to the right person. As for Ava, I'll figure out a way to get it back for her." CC was silent for a moment, then sighed. "Oh, Leo, what am I going to do with you? Any other guy would be dying to use this to win a girl over, but you refuse to let Micah know. How is she ever supposed to know how you feel about her?" I was getting frustrated. I lit a cigarette and took a long drag. "CC, you don't understand. I'm in a tough spot right now. It's a mess of contradictions and struggles." "Then tell me about your contradictions and struggles. We've had this conversation before. You gave me advice, but being with her, it's just so much pressure. Every time I think about my chaotic past, I feel so small in front of her, and we misunderstand each other so easily. Like the other day, when Chloe was having cramps, I carried her upstairs, and, of course, Micah saw us. We finally cleared that up, and then the next day, she misunderstands something about Ava. I want to explain, but a relationship can't be built on constant explanations, can it? Seriously, every time I think about hurting her or making her sad, it feels like a dull knife is being dragged across my heart. CC was quiet for a long time. I think I can understand your conflict, she said finally. But you have to work through things with any woman you're with, right? You do have to work through things. The difference is with some people, the more you work, the more harmonious it gets. With others, the more you work, the more painful it gets. Maybe she and I just aren't meant to be. I'm not good enough for her. It would be better to just let go. Free her and free myself. If that's really how you feel, I won't try to persuade you otherwise. But you have to call Micah. Tell her you're not good enough for her, that it's impossible between you two. Let her move on. Make a clean break. Are you crazy? We haven't even started anything. If I suddenly call her and say all that, she's going to think I'm a lunatic. I'm telling you right now, she has hopes and expectations for you, Leo. If you tell her what you're really thinking, she won't think you're crazy. On the contrary, it might be a relief for her, too. CC, stop torturing me. In her eyes, I'm already a clown. Do you really want me to go and humiliate myself even more? If I don't torture you, you'll never face yourself. You say your past is a mess, but people don't live for the past, do they? CC's patience seemed to snap. Her voice hardened. Fine, you think about it. I'm calling Micah right now. This guitar thing involves Ava now. Micah has to know the truth. Don't call her. I can handle this. Before I could finish, CC hung up. The dial tone buzzed in my ear, leaving me completely stunned. I sat there, dumbfounded for a moment, before frantically dialing CC's number again. A recorded voice informed me the line was busy. I could only marvel at her efficiency while dreading the outcome. If Micah found out the truth, she might not feel touched at all. She might just be angry that I deceived her again. After 10 agonizing minutes, my phone rang. I snatched it up. It was CC. She must have already spoken to Micah. Leo, I just got off the phone with her. You told her everything? I did. I told her you sold Ava's guitar, and now Ava wants it back. I let out a laugh that was more frustration than humor. CC, when you put it like that, it makes us sound like a couple of kids having a tantrum. This is not a situation that benefits from the truth coming out. CC laughed back, just as frustrated. You think you sound like kids having a tantrum. You took a guitar Ava gave you, traded it for another one, and gave it to Micah. That's not something a grown-up does in the first place. All right, forget it. Stop talking. The bottom line is I was broke, and I was trying to pretend I wasn't, and now I pissed everyone off and made myself look like an idiot. The more I spoke, the more frustrated I became. In that moment, the tragedy of not having a financial foundation became painfully clear. If I'd had enough money to just buy that Taylor guitar, none of these misunderstandings would have happened. Leo, I'm sorry, CC said. I shouldn't have said that. I'm the one who should be sorry. I keep messing things up, and you're always the one cleaning up after me. But CC, you have to see what this whole incident really reveals, right? A butterfly can be beautiful, magnificent, but not everyone has the ability to catch it. The reason I hid this from Micah was because I didn't want my good intentions to turn into a source of pain. But now it looks like that's exactly what happened. CC sighed. Why can't love just be simpler? If you like someone, be with them. If you don't, say no. All this back and forth, this second guessing. It's exhausting. Because we live in a complicated world, I said. And love itself just gets swept along with the current. It's just a byproduct of the times. So the love of today has to be paid for with money. Am I wrong? After a pause, CC said with conviction, I don't believe that. There has to be a love that exists beyond all of that. There is. I'm sure there is. But we don't have the energy or the time left to chase it. After 30, you and I, we both have to learn the meaning of the word compromise. Maybe I've already compromised. My words seemed to hit a nerve. She went silent. For all her years of holding out, I knew that one day, time would force her to let go of her convictions and surrender to the quiet drone of ordinary life. Suddenly, CC laughed. Leo, it's New Year's Day. Can we please not talk about such heavy topics? Besides, I called you to talk about you and Micah. Go on, I said. I'm ready. Actually, after I told her, she didn't say anything about it. Instead, she kept asking me how I was doing in Boston. Sometimes I can't figure her out. She can be so simple and so complex. Simply adorable and complex to the point of being terrifying. The simple one is her in her personal life. The complex one is her at work. The scary part is when she brings the boardroom into her life. And clearly, this is something she's not willing to handle with her personal life simplicity. So what do you think she's thinking now? Will she help you get the guitar back from Gil? I don't know. Do you want her to? I answered without a trace of hesitation. Of course not. If she gets it back, then the guitar I gave her becomes a gift she gave to herself. That's true. You really do like her. That's why you want to be the one to give her something that will stay with her for a long time. After a long silence, I said, see, it's late. You should hang up and get some rest. As for me and Micah, let's just let nature take its course. Neither of us can be forced into anything. Maybe our strong personalities are the reason we can't get close. Okay, all I can do is build a bridge between you two. Whether you meet in the middle is up to you. I'm hanging up now. You get some rest, too. After the call, I was once again plunged into the deep, bewildering night. After a while, I picked up my phone to distract myself. I don't know why I opened WhatsApp, but it turned out to be worth it. Chloe, still in Santa Fe, had updated her story. It was mostly pictures of her trip, beautiful scenery, and she looked beautiful in it. I couldn't help but give it a like. A message from her popped up almost immediately. Leo, you like my pic? Still awake? Yep. Can't sleep. What are you doing? Just floating in the deep, dark night. She sent back a smiling emoji. What's gotten into your poetic soul now? Using words like deep in everything. The night. This time she sent a voice note. You're lonely, aren't you, Leo? In that case, you can sing me a song about the desert to cheer me up. If you do a good job, I'll give you a reward. Well then, this humble little lady will give it a try. She sent another voice note. A short, beautiful snippet of a folk song about the Southwest. Not bad. I'll give you another like. A like is my reward. Yep. I'm not known for my generosity, but a classy person like you. Aren't you going to send me a little holiday cash? I was just joking, but to my surprise, she replied, already got something for you. I'll give it to you when I get back from Santa Fe. By the way, aren't you with Micah? How can you be lonely? Her question reopened the wound. Annoyed, I typed back. I'm taking back my like. Chloe. A moment later, she sent another message. What happened between you two? Did you fight again? It's too complicated to explain. Ugh, life is just a piece of tough, gristly meat. It has no shame. Leo, you change your tunes so fast. Where did all that poetic energy from a minute ago go? Whatever, I'm done talking. I have to go back to floating in the deep, dark night and slice up that stinking, tough piece of gristly meat. She ignored my nonsense and sent another message. Why don't you come to Santa Fe and clear your head? The bars here are great, the scenery is amazing, and there are even more beautiful women. You'd love it. Her suggestion was tempting. I lit a cigarette, pondering whether I should go, when another message popped up. It wasn't from Chloe. Leo, I'm coming to Indianapolis tomorrow. Will you take me to the arcade and to get some of that hot chicken? I blinked a few times, making sure I was reading it right. It was from Micah. But was she coming for the arcade and the hot chicken, or was she coming for me? That was a question worth pondering in the deep, dark night. I stared at the message for a long time, then suddenly laughed at myself. Of course, I knew why Micah was coming to Indianapolis. My momentary doubt was just a self-deprecating joke born from all the recent chaos. I finally texted her back. So, are you coming to Indy for the arcade and the hot chicken? Or do you have ulterior motives? She didn't reply right away. I thought about Chloe's offer to go to Santa Fe and felt a pang of conflict. After a moment, I texted Chloe back. Can't make it. She didn't ask why, just sent back a side-eye emoji and a good night, ending our conversation. I asked myself if Micah hadn't texted, would I have gone to Santa Fe? The honest answer was no. It wouldn't have been right for me and Chloe, a single man and woman, to be alone together in a place like Santa Fe, a city known for its romantic allure. I lay flat on my back, staring at the ceiling again, wondering how Micah would reply. A few moments later, her text came through. Of course I have ulterior motives. But the arcade and hot chicken are also non-negotiable parts of the itinerary. What ulterior motives? I texted back almost instantly. Again, it took a while for her to respond. I want to see you. Just 4 words, and the withered flower in my heart suddenly, miraculously bloomed again. I felt like if you took out the word see, the message would be even more direct, more piercing. I replied, can we take out the word see? She sent a voice note. You're really good at finding new topics. I'm going to sleep now. Talk to you tomorrow. I have to get up early. I didn't mind that she dodged my flirty comment. I texted back. All right. So, are you coming to my place for lunch? This time, her reply was quick. Do you think that's a good idea? I thought about it. I was worried my mom might give her the cold shoulder because of the whole situation with Liz. I decided to talk to the warden first. If he said it was okay, then I'd feel more confident. I immediately texted him. Dad, you asleep yet? Almost. I can't sleep. How about you break out some of that aged bourbon and have a couple drinks with me? In the living room, the warden poured us each a small glass of bourbon. Dad, I need to talk to you about something. Go on. You know I'm not just drinking with you because I can't sleep, right? I rubbed my nose, a nervous habit. Comrade Micah is coming to Indianapolis tomorrow. Do you think it's okay for her to come to our place for lunch? The warden took a sip of his bourbon. Does she have any other friends or relatives in Indianapolis? I quickly shook my head. No, definitely not. He didn't say anything. A light bulb went on in my head. So you think it's okay, right? She's coming all the way to Indianapolis to see you. Are you going to make her eat at a restaurant on a holiday instead of coming to our house? A wave of relief washed over me. I clinked my glass against his and grinned. That's all I needed to hear. You got my back with Mom, right? You know, Micah's a bit shy. It would be super awkward if Mom gives her the cold shoulder. The warden nodded, agreeing to handle it. Back in my room, feeling much more confident, I texted Micah back. What's not to like about it? I'll meet you at the highway exit tomorrow and pick you up. Then we'll go to my place for lunch. No need. I know how to get to your house. Oh, right. You've been here before. Yep. See you tomorrow then. Okay. Drive safe. The next morning, I was up early. I found my mom in the kitchen making breakfast and started to feel her out. Mom, did you know I have a friend coming to visit today? Your father told me, she said, her tone lukewarm. It made me nervous. So, what are your thoughts on that? My thoughts are on what to buy at the grocery store and what to cook. I relaxed a little. This is an out-of-state visit, you know? You have to show her our famous Hoosier hospitality. I know what to do. I grinned at her, grateful for her cooperation. Just as I was about to leave, she grabbed my arm. Tell me the truth. What's really going on between you and that girl from Portland? I just told you we're friends. The apartment I'm living in is hers. We're just good friends. I knew I couldn't get a straight answer out of you, she said, her expression full of disapproval. You know, if you could just find a steady girlfriend, I wouldn't be so insistent about you and Liz. But look at this. What is this? Mom, can we not talk about Liz right now? Can we just ignore her gender and treat her like a friend who's come to visit? Honestly, there's nothing going on between us right now. If you have to define the relationship, it's like with CC. You met CC, right? She came to visit a couple of years ago. Just treat her like you treated CC. Smile when you should smile. Be a good host. Okay? I can cooperate. That's not a problem. But you need to think about how old you are this year. Isn't it time you found a girl and gave me and your dad some peace of mind? You're right. I'll work hard on it this year. I won't disappoint you and Dad. I hope you're not just saying that. Don't worry. If a guy could find a right girl who would want to be single. After breakfast, I took a pack of cigarettes and a cup of tea out to the balcony and sat there, watching the street, terrified I'd miss Micah's arrival. I completely forgot how long it takes to drive from Seattle to Indianapolis. Around 11:30, I finally saw her red Audi Q7 pull into the neighborhood. I shot up and ran downstairs. I guided her into a parking spot. She got out of the car, carrying her handbag. We stood a few feet apart, just looking at each other. I'm really happy to see you, I finally said. Me too. Another silence. Then I said, come on, let's go up and eat. The warden cooked himself. Wait, I brought some gifts for your parents. Can you help me get them from the trunk? What did you bring gifts for? The presents you bought last year are still in the old house in Portland. We never even brought them to Indy. Be a dear, she said softly. Go get them for me. The way she said, be a dear, made everything feel instantly intimate. I found myself just staring at her. She smiled. Why are you looking at me like that? Are you about to ask me why I'm so pale again? Yeah, why are you so pale? And so beautiful? Get the stuff out of the trunk first, then we can talk about it, she urged, still in a good mood. I finally got the bags out of her trunk. What did you get? I asked, curious. A purse for your mom and a fishing rod for your dad since he likes to fish. I peeked into one of the bags and saw a Prada purse. I had to laugh. You know, my mom will probably use this to carry vegetables from the market, right? You really didn't have to spend so much. I bet that fishing rod wasn't cheap either. She just brushed it off. Weren't you just asking me why I'm so pale? Do you still want the answer? I led her toward the building. Of course I do. Tell me, why are you so pale? She put on a mysterious expression, then, after a long pause, gave me a dismissive answer. Because I'm a girl from the misty Pacific Northwest. Huh? Oh, come on, that's such a cop-out. There are thousands of girls from the PNW, and not many of them are as pale as you. You must be some kind of ghost. We joked all the way upstairs, completely forgetting the unpleasantness of the past few days. Just as I was about to open the door, Micah suddenly grabbed my arm, motioning for me to wait. What's wrong? I asked. I'm suddenly a little nervous. A light bulb went on. Oh, right. I forgot. The last time you were here, the warden walked in on you draped all over me. That must have made a bad impression, especially since you're a girl. Man, I really hope the warden has forgotten that embarrassing scene. She looked at me, a mix of hurt and anger in her eyes. Leo, how can you say that? Now I'm even more nervous. You look so pitiful right now. Then could you show a little compassion? I finally dropped the jokes. The truth was I was touched. She was nervous because she cared. She wanted to make a good impression on my family. I gently patted her shoulder. I was just kidding, I said softly. Don't worry, it's going to be a really nice lunch. After we eat, I'll take you to the arcade. Okay, you can open the door now. I put the key in the lock and opened the door. The warden was in the kitchen, and my mom was mopping the floor. Auntie, Happy New Year, Micah said politely. My mom put down a mop and smiled. Happy New Year. Come in, sit down and rest for a bit. Leo, go make Micah a cup of tea. My mom's relatively warm reception put me at ease. I put down the gifts Micah had brought and went to make tea. Micah sat on the couch. I brought her the tea and sat down next to her. My mom's being so welcoming, I whispered. You're not nervous anymore, are you? Your mom didn't see me draped all over you. I'll be nervous when I see your dad. I smiled. The fact that she could joke about it proved she was more relaxed. Just then, the warden came out of the kitchen with a pot of soup. Micah stood up politely. Uncle, Happy New Year. I wish you success at work and good health in the new year. The warden beamed. Thank you. I wish you success at work, too. A little while later, the four of us were sitting around the table, eating lunch. The warden was quiet, as usual, but my mom seemed to have a long list of questions prepared. She served Micah food while asking, Micah, how old are you this year? Micah smiled. Auntie, I'm 27, the same age as Leo. Oh, not so young anymore. Are you seeing anyone? Micah shook her head. So what do you do for work? My mom continued. Micah glanced at me, then answered patiently. I work at a department store. I was afraid my mom would start asking about her family, so I quickly intervened. Mom, we're eating. Can you please not make this feel like a job interview? If you want, after we eat, I can have Comrade Micah give you a resume. You can study it at your leisure. Micah pursed her lips to hide a smile. My mom complained, Look at your father, he's like a block of wood, doesn't say a word. If I don't say something, it'll be dead silent. Then tell Micah about the local culture of Indianapolis. You'll sound so knowledgeable. The warden finally spoke up. I agree with Leo on that one. But talking about local culture would be a challenge for your mother. Now, if you want her to explain how to win at Mahjong, she's an expert. The warden's rare joke made me and Micah laugh, and the atmosphere lightened considerably. The technical task of explaining local culture was then taken over by the warden. He spoke patiently, and Micah listened attentively. Lunch ended on a harmonious note. To avoid my mom's post-meal interrogation, Micah and I left early and went to the Pixel Palace arcade. We played games for the entire afternoon. By the time we left, it was already dusk. Afterward, I took Micah to a salon in a mall to get her hair washed. The stylist was stunned by her beauty, exclaiming that in all his years, he'd never seen a woman with such perfect hair. I was used to it by now. It seemed every time we went out in public, I heard similar compliments. Bored, I looked at Micah's reflection in the mirror again. She really was beautiful. You could look at her for a long time and never get tired of it. She felt a little unreal. The feeling was enjoyable, but also disheartening, because subconsciously, I always felt that I could never get close to her, let alone dream an intimate relationship. My mom's warning to stop dreaming about catching a swan was the best proof of that. Even if we did get together one day, how many people would actually be rooting for us? The thought was depressing. Lost in my thoughts, I suddenly saw Liz walk into the salon. She showed her VIP card to the receptionist, apparently here to get her hair washed too. She didn't see me in the corner at first. I instantly regretted bringing Micah to the salon Liz frequented. Running into her was incredibly awkward. Liz soon walked over to the seat next to Micah's. She glanced at Micah, a stranger to her, and then her eyes fell on me, sitting behind them. Her face registered surprise. I stood up and walked over, forcing a smile as I made the introductions. I turned to Liz first. This is my friend, Micah. Then, looking at Liz, I said to Micah, this is Liz. We're friends, too. After my introduction, the two women nodded at each other, but I saw surprise in their eyes, especially Micah's. She had always known about Liz, known that she was the woman who had almost become my wife. During the hair washing, Liz and Micah didn't exchange a single word. Micah finished before Liz, and as we were about to leave, we had to say goodbye. Liz, we're heading out, I said. Talk to you later. Liz looked at me, then at Micah, her expression complicated. Then she smiled. Leo, in this moment, I finally understand why you were so determined to go back to Portland back then. I knew she thought I had gone back for Micah, but I couldn't explain it to her in this awkward situation. It was too difficult to explain, so I just let the misunderstanding hang in the air and remained silent. Micah, who knew the truth, didn't explain either. She just stared out the salon window at the traffic, as if she didn't want to linger there. I finally gave Liz a bitter smile, the smile of someone who has been misunderstood, and said goodbye again. I led Micah out of the salon, a strange taste in my mouth. If only I really had gone back for Micah. Things would have been so much simpler. We walked down the street as night began to fall, neither of us saying a word. As we neared the end of the block, Micah stopped and looked at me for a long time. Leo, she asked, why does everyone always mistake us for a couple? The sudden question stunned me. I was silent for a long time before I finally answered. Because fate keeps throwing us together. You can't escape me, and I can't escape you. Micah stared at me for a long, long time. Finally, she asked softly, so, do you want me to be your girlfriend? I just stared at Micah, my heart, which had been dormant in matters of love for years, beginning to pound in my chest. I couldn't speak. On the busy street corner, I lit a cigarette, then turned my head to look at her reflection in a shop window. It was blurry, dreamlike. I exhaled a long plume of smoke, letting it drift toward her. She didn't flinch, her expression unchanged. I held the cigarette between my fingers, not taking another drag. I smiled. Do you know what I'm thinking right now? No. I'm thinking if time could just freeze right here, and then whoosh, we're suddenly old. Our eyelids are drooping, our hair is white, and we're holding onto each other as we cross the street. We're huddled by the fire to keep warm. And if I still have the strength, I'll play the guitar for you while you sing. But we're only 27. There's such a long road ahead of us. And I'm a short leg. I can't keep up with your long one. We'll just end up limping the whole way. Micah was silent, but I knew she understood. She was that smart. I flicked off the long ash that had gathered and took a deep drag, letting the smoke take a painful tour of my lungs before exhaling. I smiled again. I admire your beauty. I love your every smile. But none of that is as solid as the thought of loving the wrinkles on your face when you're old. So, Micah cut me off. She returned my smile. Leo, I want to hear you sing. Right now. I looked at her, confused. The cigarette had burned down to the filter, searing my fingers. I dropped it. I want you to sing Rearview Mirror. Sing it for me, okay? Looking at her expectant face, I couldn't bring myself to refuse. I nodded, and there on the crowded street corner, I began to sing, my voice low. I took a drive today, time to emancipate. I guess it was the beatings made me wise. But I'm not about to give thanks or apologize. I gathered speed from you. Fuck you and all your lies. I'm not about to give thanks or apologize. I see it in the rearview mirror now. I see it in the rearview mirror. I see it in the rearview mirror. The lyrics seemed to tear open the most primal desires in my heart. I lost control, my voice rising from a low murmur to a raw scream. Passers-by started to stop, gathering under the same streetlight, watching us. Leo, Micah said, her voice cutting through the noise. It's just like the song. If you're really searching for truth and freedom, you have to walk through thorns and flowers. I want to ask you, do you still have the courage to find your final faith in this city of desire and run with me to the most distant town? I looked around at the crowd, at all the different eyes on us, and felt dizzy. The world went blurry again. This scene had never been in my script. What was wrong with Micah? If there was going to be a confession, it should have been me, the man, not her, the angel fallen to earth. I crouched down and motioned for her to get on my back. Without hesitation, she leaned down and wrapped her arms around my neck. I held onto her legs, pushed off the ground, and broke through the circle of onlookers, running toward the distance. In a fleeting glance to the side, I saw Liz standing in the crowd. Her figure, along with the murmuring voices, grew blurry and then disappeared completely. We escaped the city's noise, and I carried her to the edge of the old Central Canal. Unlike the Willamette River in Portland, Indianapolis's canal felt more weathered and ancient, and it was much quieter. I stopped, and Micah slid off my back. I bent over, gasping for breath. The run had been a release of madness and joy, but it had also taken a heavy toll on my body. I collapsed onto the withered grass. Micah sat down next to me and handed me a tissue. Thanks. I took it from her and wiped the sweat from my face. A breeze blew past, carrying the sound of distant fireworks and firecrackers. It blew us into silence. Micah seemed tired, too. She lay down next to me on the grass. I reached into my pocket for a cigarette, but the pack must have fallen out during our frantic run. I felt a pang of anxiety, but I followed my heart and said to the woman beside me, "Wait for me. Let me rest for a minute, and then I'll confess to you." "Okay. Do you want a cigarette? I can go buy you some." "Yeah, but it's a long walk to the store. Are you sure you're not too tired?" She shook her head. "I'm not tired. I can walk a bit, then rest a bit. But you better not forget you have to confess to me when I get back." "Okay. When you get back." "Okay. What kind do you want?" "American Spirit, the yellow pack." Micah nodded and started to get up. I called out to her again. "Wait. What's wrong? Are you nervous?" "Yes. So I need to walk. And you need a cigarette." "You're right. Walk slowly, but you have to come back." "Are you afraid you won't get your cigarette? Or are you afraid I won't come back?" "I'm afraid you won't come back. I can always buy my own cigarettes." "I understand. Okay, go. Bring back the cigarettes, Bring back yourself, bring back my faith. I'll wait for you, no matter how long it takes. Micah left. I was alone. A sense of melancholy and loss washed over me. I sat up on the grass and stared blankly at the rippling surface of the water. I could imagine what would happen in half an hour, maybe an hour. Last year, she was 26, and I met her. She was my landlord, or maybe my tenant. This year, she's 27, and she's about to become my girlfriend, bringing back the faith I had lost so long ago. But how did I feel right now? It was hard to say, but I knew one thing. It was time to fight. I didn't want to be the leg that was shorter than hers. I didn't want her to have to accommodate me, to hold me up as we walked forward. But what heights did I need to reach to be able to walk smoothly beside her? I felt a wave of despair. Right now, I had no plan for my career. My thinking was still stuck on just finding a stable job, and it was obvious that a stable job was no longer enough. In the midst of this mix of joy and confusion, I received a text. It was from Ava. Leo, I got the guitar back from Gil. You owe him the money. I knew that when Ava saw Gil, she would have figured out that I'd traded her guitar for the one I gave Micah. That's why she didn't pay Gil. It made perfect sense. If she had paid him, the Taylor guitar would have indirectly become a gift from her to Micah. What a dark joke that would have been. I read the message over and over. I felt like the gears of fate were turning between us. Now that the guitar was back with Ava, it meant that, at least on a material level, we had drawn a clear line. The deep-seated mark between us was finally erased. And on the same day, I was getting together with Micah because I liked her. Was this a coincidence, or was it fate? I hoped it was fate. At least if it was fate, there was a path to follow. If it was just coincidence, we would be left to drift restlessly on the chaotic waves of chance. I dragged a hand heavily across my face and finally texted Ava back. Got it. I'll pay Gil back as soon as I'm back in Portland. She didn't reply. There was no need. The matter of the guitar was settled, and with it, our relationship had reached its conclusion. I put the phone back in my pocket and couldn't help but look over my shoulder, even though I knew Micah wouldn't be back so soon. The wind blew in gusts, stirring up ripples on the water and stirring up a longing in my heart. Even though she'd only been gone for a few minutes, I missed her. The wind had already moved my heart. Time ticked by. I wanted her to hurry back, but at the same time, I still hadn't figured out how to confess. Other guys plan elaborate, romantic gestures, and I had sent her to buy me cigarettes. It was so lame. I felt like I was letting her down. I desperately wished I could think of a way to make it up to her. In my anxiety, I heard footsteps on the canal bank. I turned to see Micah. She was carrying a small plastic bag. Inside, I could see a pack of cigarettes and what looked like a few cans of beer. My breathing quickened. How do I confess? How do I do this? I chanted in my head. She got closer, and I could hear the thumping of my own heart. My ability to think vanished. I just stared at her. Micah sat down cross-legged beside me and handed me the bag. Your cigarettes, she said softly. Thanks. I reached for the bag, but my hand brushed against hers, and in my daze, I fumbled and dropped it. Micah picked it up and handed it to me again. Are you nervous? A little. Other guys pull off these romantic confessions, and I send you to buy me smokes. How pathetic is that? I thought of the way Abner had rented out an entire movie theater to confess to her. Compared to that, I was a complete joke. It's the person confessing that matters, not the way they do it. Can you just hurry up? Or else. I'm getting nervous too. Okay, light one for me. Like Popeye eating spinach. I need strength. Micah tore the plastic off the pack, pulled out a cigarette, and said, Open your mouth. I did. She stuck the cigarette between my lips, fished the lighter from my pocket, and lit it for me. Then she placed her hands back on her lap and watched me quietly. I took a drag, turned my head to exhale, then looked back at her. If I confess, are you going to reject me? You haven't confessed yet. How would I know? Good point. I smoked almost the entire cigarette without saying another word. Micah remained patient, not rushing me. Finally, I stubbed out the cigarette, but my courage building. But then Micah suddenly grabbed a can of beer from the bag and handed it to me. Maybe you should have a beer first. I took the can confused. Are you nervous again? Yes. I'd had enough of this roundabout tension. A rush of blood went to my head. I raised the beer can, hurled it into the canal, and said, Let's both stop being nervous. Then I lunged, tackling her onto the grass. I pinned her down, stared at her for a second, and kissed her. For me, in that moment, this was the best confession. Caught off guard, Micah's hands flew to mine, her nails digging deep into my flesh. I stopped for a second, then bit her lip. She closed her eyes, her grip on my fingers tightening. I bit down harder. She squeezed harder. I bit harder. Finally, I felt her nails break the skin on my hand. I ignored the pain, terrified I was going to break the skin on her lip. I quickly opened my mouth and let go. At almost the exact same moment, she released her death grip on my hands. I rolled off her and laid down on the grass beside her, letting out a heavy breath. I started to laugh. I like you. I want you to be my wife, to have my kids. But I only dared to think about it. The more I thought about it, the less I dared to think, because it felt like a dream. The more I thought, the more unreal it felt. Micah rolled on her side and wrapped her arms around me. Leo, she whispered, I want to tell you a story. I opened my arm for her to rest her head on. Go on. I'm listening. In a garden, there was a very beautiful flower. Tourists came from all over to admire her beauty, desperate to pick her, to possess her. But there was a gardener who always protected her, keeping the tourists from harming her. He watered her every day, fertilized her, and watched her bloom. Just seeing her open up brought him joy. He never asked for anything in return. I was silent for a long time. You think I'm that gardener? Yes. And so, I'm willing to be the flower that blooms only for you. I searched my heart. Was I really the gardener who had been silently protecting Micah? I wasn't sure. At least, in the process of getting to know her, a part of my heart had still been occupied by another flower. But one thing was certain. No matter what I did for Micah, I never once thought about what I could get from her. I was willing to silently support her, protect her, and watch her be happy. I held her tighter, pulling her closer. I understand, I whispered in her ear. I hope that in this world of desires, you are my final faith. And I hope I can take you with me as we leap into the river of happiness and swim all the way to the end. You can. Ever since Ben told me the truth about that incident, I've believed that you're the person my father sent to protect me. I smiled. Now that you put it that way, it does explain all the coincidences between us. But if I'm working so hard to protect you, shouldn't your old man be paying me his salary? Micah playfully smacked me. He's giving you his daughter. How can you have the nerve to ask for a salary? A wave of joy and sweetness washed over me. I held her even tighter. In that moment, I could feel it. I was holding Micah, my girlfriend Micah, not the formidable CEO of Aria Grande. We lay there in a silent embrace. After a long time, she said, Leo, from now on, you can't think about any other women besides me. I don't care about your past, but I care about our future. And I don't want to see any more misunderstandings like last time. You mean on New Year's Eve, when you saw me holding Ava? Yes. Cece explained it to me, so I know it was a misunderstanding. But we can't always rely on Cece to clear up our misunderstandings, can we? I nodded, signaling for her not to worry. For my part, it was time to say goodbye to my past life. Because right now, holding her in my arms, I felt completely content. It was like I'd found a faith I had lost so long ago. Another gust of wind blew past, carrying with it the warmth of spring. I felt intoxicated, captivated, wishing we could just stay like this, holding each other until we were old. Are you asleep? She whispered. No, I just feel a little drunk. This isn't a dream, is it? Let me bite you. If it hurts, it's not a dream. Are you still holding a grudge because I bit your lip? By the way, you pinched me pretty hard, too. Hey, wait, it already hurt. So it's definitely not a dream. Micah laughed, but then her tone turned serious. By the way, Leo, next Friday is my uncle's 50th birthday. There's going to be a party. I want you to come with me. Declan's birthday, I thought to myself, completely surprised. Next Friday is the 8th day of a new year, right? Yes. Are you free? I hesitated for a second. Even though I despised Declan, I wasn't going to refuse. I smiled and joked. Are you using this as an excuse to introduce me to your family? You can interpret it however you want, but I hope you'll come. It's going to be a huge party, right? I'm afraid I'll get lost in the sea of millionaires and embarrass you. Micah gave me a look. I'm kidding. I'd walk through fire for you. So of course I'll be there for a birthday party. Micah nestled against me. As I brushed a damp strand of hair from her temple, the moment started to feel real. My heart swelled with a joy so pure it temporarily erased all my previous worries. I cared only for the stunning beauty of a flower in full, glorious bloom. The wind blew, and I held her tighter. She whispered in my ear, talking about the future. Leo, what are your plans for this year? I thought for a moment. Well, you're my girlfriend now, so of course I'm staying in Portland to be with you. Micah nodded. After a brief silence, she asked, And what do you plan to do? I knew she meant for work. Without much thought, I said, once the bar is stable, I'll hand it back over to Chloe. The way things are going, that should be soon. Then I'll find a job. And you definitely won't consider Aria Grande, right? I smiled. Do you want us to be constantly surrounded by endless gossip when we're together? Let's just be happy together. Let's not look for trouble, okay? Micah didn't respond, just fell silent. I put my hands on her shoulders, still smiling. Cheer up. You know that even if I went to Aria, I'd just be another Ben or Mr. Clark. I wouldn't make that much of a difference. Your position in my heart is different from theirs. but my abilities aren't that much better than theirs. The more you promote me, the more you keep me by your side, the more it proves that I need to live under your protection, in your shadow. That's not what I want. Even if I'm broke, even if I'm struggling, at least I'm still me. Micah shook her head. When we decided to be together, everything of mine became yours, and everything of yours became mine. Why should we care about what other people think? You're right. We do belong to each other. But that's limited to our hearts, not our material possessions. Micah didn't want to argue anymore. After a long pause, she said, maybe you're right. I've always understood what you're searching for. Her expression made me feel a little guilty. I tried to comfort her. From now on, I'll be your strongest support in our personal life. I'll have dinner ready for you every day when you get home, and I guarantee it'll be delicious. When you're tired, I'll give you a massage. I guarantee it'll make you feel better and relieve all the stress from your workday. Isn't that great? Why do both of us have to be so busy with work that we have no time for anything else? You think you won't be busy if you work at another company? I really won't be. If you don't believe me, ask Ben. Ask him how I used to coast by when I was in the marketing department at Polaris Retail. I'll tell you this. I was the only person in the entire company who never got a perfect attendance bonus. And I held that record for 21 consecutive months. It's legendary. Micah looked at me, exasperated. I can't believe you're smiling about that. If you were at Aria, you would have been fired long ago. See? Better for me to take the hint myself than for you to fire me. I can't be the black sheep at Aria and embarrass you, the CEO. You always have an answer for everything. Even though she still sounded exasperated, I knew we had temporarily closed the chapter on my future employment. I asked, half joking, half serious. I remember you used to say you would only live with your boyfriend. So, can we consider you moving back to the old house now? The question seemed to embarrass her. She subconsciously tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. We'll discuss it later. No more discussing. Let's strike while the iron is hot. You should just come home with me tonight. My bed isn't huge, but it is a double. But your room is a single room. Are you making fun of me for not being able to find a girlfriend for so long? Yeah, you've been a bachelor for a few years now, haven't you? All bachelors are just saving up their energy to find the best girl. See? I found her. This girlfriend is awesome. Here, let me give you a like. I started tapping my finger on her face. Micah retaliated, pressing her hands all over my face. After a moment, we were laughing, wrapped in each other's arms, breathless. And in that breathlessness, the feeling of reality finally returned. I stroked her hair and looked up at the sky. The fireworks seemed to sketch a magnificent city in the air. It was beautiful, but it wasn't crystal clear, and I didn't expect to see the woman with the long hair there. Wait, was a reason I couldn't see the woman in that city because I was already holding Micah? I wanted her to be the woman in that city whose face I had never been able to see clearly. That night, Micah and I ate hot chicken together. I dropped her off at a hotel near my house and went home, my heart overflowing with joy. As I opened my front door, I couldn't help but hum a modified version of Chapel of Love. Tomorrow you're gonna marry me. Yeah. Tomorrow you're gonna marry me. Yeah. If it wasn't for the traffic bug in all of my dreams. Tomorrow you're gonna marry me. Yeah. If you hadn't asked me, if you hadn't persuaded me, if at the right time you hadn't made my heart beat. The song drifted from my lips. As I opened the door, my mom and the warden stared at me with identical expressions of shock. Leo, my mom asked, which girl is marrying you tomorrow? I put my keys in my pocket and smiled. No one's marrying me. It's just a song. My mom nodded. Right. It's nighttime. You're dreaming again. I stared at her for a long moment and suddenly realized I'd inherited my sarcastic streak from her. It wasn't so bad. Much better than inheriting the warden's stoicism. The warden, flipping through channels, asked casually, where's Micah? She's staying at a hotel. He nodded. After a pause, he added, we have spare room. She could have stayed here. Save some money. A hotel room is more spacious. Just as I said that, my phone rang. I pulled it out and saw it was Ben. I felt a pang of guilt. We'd been friends for so many years, and I hadn't even called to wish him a happy new year. He and Jenna were always the ones looking out for me. I answered the phone. Before he could speak, I said, Happy New Year to you and your lovely wife. Ben laughed. Happy New Year. How's the holiday in Indianapolis? Same old, same old. You and Jenna, when are you heading back to Portland? Tomorrow. You. Day after tomorrow. All right, let's get together when you're back. He paused, then added, Nathan's back from overseas too. I don't know why, but hearing Nathan's name filled me with a strange sense of oppression. I didn't respond right away. You still there? I didn't want Ben to notice anything was wrong. I forced a laugh. Yeah, let's get together. Just let me know when. His words sent me tumbling back into my memories. Those days of barbecue and beer were truly unforgettable. We'd drink until we were yelling at each other one minute and had our arms slung around each other's shoulders the next. Now, there was a rift between us. Of course, the rift was only between me and Nathan. I told Ben it sounded good. He added, "Leo, make sure you bring Micah. It'll make things more lively and less awkward for everyone." I was stunned for a second, then marveled at the power of time. I remembered how I used to force Micah to pretend to be my girlfriend at these gatherings. And now, she really was my girlfriend. I wonder, when I walked into that barbecue joint, holding her hand for real, what would we all be feeling? I thought I would keep my promise to Micah. I would let go of all the baggage and wish Ava and Nathan well. And I hoped, more than anything, that they could do the same for me and Micah. After washing up, I lay in bed, thinking the night would finally be quiet without the lingering pop of New Year's fireworks. But then a new sound started up, a steady tapping of rain against the window pane. My thoughts were immediately pulled into its vortex, back to that first rainy night I met her. I'd been so pathetic back then, so down and out I had nowhere to go in a city I once called home. And she had been so disgusted with me, refusing to even offer me an umbrella in the downpour. But I'd shamelessly strong-armed a debit card from her, and just like that, our fates were tangled together. After that, I was rough with her, and she schemed to abandon me in the countryside. I made her ginger tea when she had a cold, and she bailed me out of the downtown precinct after a brawl. We fought constantly, but we'd also give each other gifts. Sometimes she hated how boring I was, and other times she'd join me in my boredom. We raced RC cars in the square and rode the mechanical horse in front of the 7.11. Bit by bit, these tiny moments threaded together the strange tapestry of fate and threaded together my love for her. I had to believe it was the same for her. But how was I supposed to protect a love like this? The joy I'd found in our recent calm was suddenly replaced by a churning anxiety. I lit a cigarette, letting the smoke steady my nerves before finally sending her a WhatsApp message. "You asleep?" "Nope. Watching a show. It's raining. Can you hear it?" "Is it?" "Turn off the TV. You'll hear it." "Hold on. Let me finish this episode." I sighed at her noncompliance, stubbed out my cigarette, and put my phone on the nightstand. I pulled the covers up to my chin and closed my eyes, listening to the patter of the rain. A moment later, my phone buzzed again. I figured she'd finished her show and was ready to talk, so I eagerly snatched the phone back up. But her message was just a question. "Aren't you watching TV?" "Not really a TV guy. It's a national premiere tonight. Your friend is the star. You're not even going to watch." I was floored. Micah was watching Chloe's show. I'd completely forgotten tonight was the premiere. I quickly messaged back, "What channel?" "What channel?" "It's on like 3 different networks. Easy to find." I turned on the TV and flipped through the channels until I found it. It was Chloe's scene. She was playing some kind of lady-in-waiting in a lavish period piece, swallowing her pride, her eyes welling with tears after being wronged. Another message came from Micah. "She's a good actress. She plays that kind of stoic suffering really well." I sighed, knowing exactly why Chloe was so convincing. She played the part of silent endurance so well because she lived it. The time she got slapped by another actress on set. If she hadn't just endured it, how else could a newcomer like her survive? Thinking about all the crap Chloe had to put up with, I suddenly couldn't watch anymore. I grabbed the remote, clicked the TV off, and slid the window open to light another cigarette. Compared to Micah, Chloe's family life wasn't much better. She had a father and a mother, but they divorced while she was at NYU and quickly started new families, leaving Chloe to fend for herself. She often said with a bitter laugh that she didn't have parents, that she'd just sprung from a rock. I still remembered the first time I met her, drinking herself into a stupor at a bar with no money to her name. In the end, it was me and Robin, 2 broke musicians, who pooled our cash to cover her tab. We became friends after that, but her life was still a mess. I managed to get her a few gigs shooting promotional posters for Polaris Retail, where I was working, which helped her get by. And then I got drunk and made a mistake. I slept with her. It was an indelible stain on my life. You don't sleep with your friends. If I hadn't, we wouldn't have had all the messy entanglements that drove me crazy. My thoughts were cut off again by the buzz of my phone. This time, I let it sit for a long while before picking it up. "Leo, are you watching?" "Nah, turn it off. It's just some cheesy fantasy drama." "You still watching?" "It's over. Only 2 episodes tonight. More tomorrow." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Are you watching the show? Or are you watching Chloe?" "Both." It was an honest answer, and it made her feel more real, more down to earth. She watched the same guilty pleasure shows as everyone else. It wasn't that surprising, I guess. At that impromptu concert at the 5th season launch, she'd even made me play a ridiculously poppy boy band song. There was no rule that said a woman as sophisticated as her couldn't have a childish or lowbrow moment now and then. The night was getting deeper. I glanced at the clock. It was time to sleep. I decided to get to the point and send her another message. Let's head back to Portland the day after tomorrow. We can go to that high school reunion Ben is organizing. What do you think? Let's head back to Portland the day after tomorrow. We can go to that high school reunion Ben is organizing. What do you think? Her reply came back instantly. Okay, whatever you arrange. So obedient? Because you're even more obedient. No, you are. You're the most obedient. I suddenly smiled. I think we'd had a similar conversation once before, but the when and where of it escaped me. My fingers hovered over the screen, and after ending our silly game, I mustered up my courage and sent one more message. Would it be cheesy if I called you baby? Would it be cheesy if I called you baby? You mean you don't think of me as your baby? Of course I do. Then why would it be cheesy? But you have to mean it. I do. From the bottom of my heart. Then send me a voice note. Let's see if you can actually say it. I held down the record button on WhatsApp, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. My face, usually thick as a fortress wall, felt hot. But I said it. Baby, baby. After sending it, I laughed at myself, but I understood my feelings for Micah more clearly. I had to be in love with her. That's why I could whisper that word into the gentle darkness. It was a simple word, one I'd only ever said to Ava, one that never crossed my lips in all the months I'd been with Liz. That makes me really happy. I should get to sleep now. You get some rest too. Wait, don't I get a pet name? Micah seemed to be thinking, crafting a response. A long moment passed before a voice note finally came through. Love you. Love you. Hearing her soft, delicate voice, my heart bloomed all over again. I didn't even care that I'd asked for a noun and gotten a verb. For me, tonight was a windfall of riches, so much that I felt dizzy, like I was being swept away by a river of happiness I couldn't escape. I was so lucky, so content. I knew what those two words meant coming from her, and it made me desperate to spend a lifetime repaying her, to witness her best years, and to one day, in our old age, fall in love with the wrinkles on her face. I turned off the light and let my imagination drift, picturing the life we were about to build. In a day, she'd be with me at Ben's reunion. In a week, I'd be with her at her Uncle Declan's birthday party. I just hoped that this reunion and this party would be a beautiful beginning for our love. And me? I hoped that, nourished by this love, I could finally build a career that was worthy of Micah. After another day in Indianapolis, Micah and I drove back to Portland. We had an early dinner together, and then she went back to her place in Riverview Estates while I went back to my old house. Exhausted from the long drive, I fell asleep early, but woke up 2 hours later, unable to drift off again no matter how hard I tried. Bored, I found a magazine and lay in bed reading. Suddenly, I remembered the guitar. Ava had just taken it. I owed Gil an apology, professionally and personally. I immediately gave him a call. He picked up right away. Gil, Ava told me about the guitar. I'm really sorry, man. Gil's laugh was laced with resignation. That ex-girlfriend of yours is something else. Nope, you owe me dinner for this. For the trauma. What did she do to you? Don't even talk about it. It was a nightmare. I gave a tired, bitter smile. I knew exactly how fierce Ava could be. You free now? Let me buy you a few drinks. You free now? Let me buy you a few drinks. Sure. Bar or a restaurant. Bar's too loud. Let's get some food. At a small restaurant, I ordered a lamb hot pot, and Gil and I started drinking and talking. I poured him a glass first, raising it with an apologetic look. About the guitar, man, I'm sorry. As soon as I have some cash, I'll pay you back. About the guitar, man, I'm sorry. As soon as I have some cash, I'll pay you back. Gil clinked his glass against mine, but his face was grim. Bro, it's not about the money. I'm heartbroken over that guitar. Do you think your ex even knows how to play? A beautiful instrument like that is just a decoration in her hands. Ugh. He downed his glass in one go and poured another, clearly miserable. Bro, it's not about the money. I'm heartbroken over that guitar. Do you think your ex even knows how to play? A beautiful instrument like that is just a decoration in her hands. Ugh. His genuine anguish only made me more curious about how Ava had managed to get the guitar back. I drank with him, then finally asked, So how did she get it from you? Gil's face was still etched with fear. He took a long drink to steady his nerves. That night, I was doing inventory at the shop. All of a sudden, whoosh, this red Cadillac pulls up and parks right out front. Then your ex gets out, and she's got this vibe. You know? Like you can't even look her straight in the eye. That night, I was doing inventory at the shop. All of a sudden, whoosh, this red Cadillac pulls up and parks right out front. Then your ex gets out, and she's got this vibe. You know? Like you can't even look her straight in the eye. And then, The flesh on Gil's face trembled. He lit a cigarette and took a heavy drag. She just turned around and walked away. I thought she was giving up. But then she comes back from her car, carrying this black canister. Tells me it's full of gasoline. Said if I didn't give her the guitar, she'd burn my shop to the ground. She just turned around and walked away. I thought she was giving up. But then she comes back from her car, carrying this black canister. Tells me it's full of gasoline. Said if I didn't give her the guitar, she'd burn my shop to the ground. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I lit a cigarette of my own, taking 2 quick puffs, at a loss for words. Gil wiped his brow with a napkin. I told her, "You light that. I'm calling the cops." She just unscrewed the cap and said, "Go ahead. Let's see who's faster, the cops or me." Man, my liver was quaking. I tried to grab the canister from her, but then she just burst into tears, sobbing, begging me to give her the guitar back. She said the guitar was her life. It either belonged to you or it belonged to her. No one else could have it. I told her, "You light that, I'm calling the cops." She just unscrewed the cap and said, "Go ahead. Let's see who's faster, the cops or me." Man, my liver was quaking. I tried to grab the canister from her, but then she just burst into tears, sobbing, begging me to give her the guitar back. She said that guitar was her life. It either belonged to you or it belonged to her. No one else could have it. Gil wiped his forehead again and took another drink. I was scared shitless. Just stood there like an idiot and gave it to her. It's not like I had a choice. I mean, forget whether she would have actually torched the place, but with our history, all of us, I couldn't let things get that ugly, you know? I was scared shitless. Just stood there like an idiot and gave it to her. It's not like I had a choice. I mean, forget whether she would have actually torched the place, but with our history, all of us, I couldn't let things get that ugly, you know? Hearing the full story, a strange feeling churned in my gut. I thought about that night by the Willamette when Micah and I had made our relationship official. At that very same time, Ava was tearing herself apart for that guitar. But why? Was she using it to mourn our unforgettable past? If so, what was the point? I couldn't figure it out. "Leo," Gil said, "I'm thinking. Maybe there was some misunderstanding between you and your ex. Based on how she acted that day, from an outsider's perspective, it really felt like she's not over you." My mind raced. The more I thought, the more it felt wrong. The distance between me and Ava wasn't just time and circumstance. It was the lack of one honest conversation. But what good would honesty do now? She was with Nathan. I was with Micah. Even if we could ignore the past, we couldn't ignore the present. The damage would be double. I drank my beer and lit another cigarette, avoiding Gil's question with silence. He didn't press. He just clinked his glass with mine and changed the subject. I drank way too much that night. When I got home, it took me several tries just to find the keyhole. I finally stumbled inside, but I didn't even have the energy to boil water. I just collapsed on the sofa and passed out. When I woke up the next day, I was surprised to find a blanket draped over me. The sound of a whistling kettle came from the kitchen, and then Micah emerged, holding a glass of hot milk. I pressed a hand to my aching head and sat up. Micah handed me the milk, her tone reproachful. "You went out drinking last night, didn't you? You went out drinking last night, didn't you?" "Yeah, with Gil," I answered honestly. "I know. I want to see Gil this morning. Look at you. You both went drinking, but he's at his shop working like normal. And you?" I focused on the key point. "You want to see Gil?" Micah nodded. "I wanted to buy the guitar back for you. He told me Ava already took it." I wasn't sure if it was nerves or the hangover, but a cold sweat beaded on my forehead. I asked tentatively, and then I tried to give him the money for it, but he said you already paid him last night. Where did you get the money, by the way? If you had it, you wouldn't have had to trade your guitar in the first place. I mentally thanked Gil for having my back. I couldn't let Micah pay for that guitar. It would defeat the whole purpose of the one I'd given her. Chloe has to pay me a salary from managing her bar, right? She transferred some money to my account a few days ago, I said, forcing out a reasonably plausible explanation. Chloe has to pay me a salary from managing her bar, right? She transferred some money to my account a few days ago, I said, forcing out a reasonably plausible explanation. Micah didn't seem as suspicious as she used to be. She just nodded, but she still looked unhappy, probably because I couldn't seem to cut ties with Chloe and Ava. I pulled her down to sit beside me, my voice as gentle as I could make it. "Ava has the guitar now. There won't be any more contact between us. And as for Chloe's bar, don't worry, I'm handing it back to her soon. There won't be any more dealings there either. Ava has the guitar now. There won't be any more contact between us. And as for Chloe's bar, don't worry, I'm handing it back to her soon. There won't be any more dealings there either. Okay, and you have to promise me you won't be a gardener tending to a whole field of flowers." I wrapped my arm around her gently and whispered in her ear, "From now on, this gardener will only ever tend to you, my one, most sacred flower. From now on, This gardener will only ever tend to you, my one, most sacred flower. That's a promise, you know. I nodded very seriously. Micah finally smiled. Drink your milk. You have a few days off, so I'm taking you to the mall later to buy some new clothes. Drink your milk. You have a few days off, so I'm taking you to the mall later to buy some new clothes. What for? For my uncle's birthday party. Do I really need to buy new clothes for that? There's a reception that night. You need to wear something formal. It dawned on me then. I didn't own a single suit that cost more than a few $100s. It definitely wouldn't pass muster at a high-end party. I just stared at Micah, saying nothing, my face blank. She met my gaze confused. What's wrong? No expression, not a word. Buying clothes, I said. Is that a big deal or a little deal? A little deal, she said without hesitation. Then why does it feel like a big deal to me? All right, you tell me. Why does it feel like a big deal to me? Because I'm broke, so I'll buy them for you. I laughed. Oh yeah? Great. While you're at it, how about a villa and a luxury car? Micah blinked, seeming to consider it for a moment. Do you really want them? I do. Okay, then I'll buy them for you. In that case, throw in a yacht. Just imagine cruising on the water, sea breeze in my hair, sipping red wine. I feel so classy, so extravagant. Micah finally understood what I was getting at, her expression growing complex. I pulled her into a hug, my voice earnest. Buying me clothes is basically the same as buying me a mansion or a sports car. That kind of gift-giving corrodes love at its very root. I know you understand that. My financial situation doesn't allow for luxury brands, and I'm not going to pretend it does. So, just let me wear my normal clothes to the party, okay? Or, if you think I'll embarrass you, I just won't go. How could I ever be embarrassed by you? Or whatever you want. I nodded, then downed the glass of milk in one gulp. You sit here and relax, I said with a smile. I'll make breakfast. After we eat, we're going to the 7-Eleven downstairs to ride the mechanical horse. Micah returned my smile, picking up a magazine to read while she waited. After breakfast, we went to the 7-Eleven as planned, swaying on the mechanical horses as we talked. Leo, what should we do later? Micah asked. Let's call Wes and go race RC cars at the square. Then we can stop by his grandpa's place for a late New Year's visit. Good idea. It feels like we haven't seen his grandpa in a while. Yeah, let's go. We can hit the mall now and pick up some gifts to bring him. Micah was in a great mood. She smiled and hopped off the horse, then linked her arm through mine affectionately. We walked back toward the parking lot, leaning against each other. My Chevy Spark was parked right next to her Audi. We looked at each other, and I finally asked, whose car are we taking? Whichever one you want to drive. You're the chauffeur today, anyway. I pinched her nose playfully. See? A boyfriend is more useful than a Swiss Army knife. I'm a nanny and a driver. You must have been a saint in a past life to deserve this. I was, and I'll treasure it. Glad you know it, I praised, then looked at the two cars and started a little counting game. My finger landed on her Q7. Well, looks like fate wants me to have a taste of the good life. Hand over the keys. Let's roll. Micah pulled the keys from her purse and gave them to me. I took her hand and led her to the car. Feeling the Q7's raw power and smooth ride, I couldn't help myself. I pushed it to 80 on the city streets. With that kind of speed, we made quick work of buying gifts at the mall, and were soon at Pioneer Courthouse Square, our usual racing spot. I parked and grabbed the two gas-powered RC cars from the trunk. With Micah by my side, I walked into the square, feeling a sense of peace and joy I hadn't experienced in years. I felt like this life was a gift. I started Micah's car for her, then my own, and we started racing around gleefully. The two impressive cars quickly drew a crowd of kids, who brought out their own cars to challenge us. Every time one of our cars flipped an opponent's, Micah would burst out laughing. It filled me with a sense of accomplishment. In all my memories of her, she'd never had as many genuine, heartfelt laughs as she did in that half-day. Time slipped by in a bubble of joy, creating a soft, gentle world for us to revel in. A little while later, Wes showed up. His face lit up when he saw us, and he came jogging over, his whole body jiggling. Big bro, ref. Happy New Year, he panted. Then he corrected himself. Wait, no, I shouldn't say Happy New Year. I should say, wishing you great fortune. Now give me my money. Seeing his outstretched hand, Micah and I exchanged a smile. Micah pulled a red envelope she'd already prepared from her purse and handed it to him. Wes took it, beaming, then turned to me. Big bro, where's yours? Didn't the ref already give you one? Yeah, but you didn't. I chuckled. One from the both of us is enough. And from now on, you can't call her the ref. You got it? Wes scratched his head, confused. Then what do I call her? I pulled Micah into my arms and raised an eyebrow at Wes. You call her sis. Wes didn't get it at first. He stood there stunned for a long moment, Then suddenly his whole body jiggled as he jumped into the air. Whoa, big bro ref, are you guys dating? Micah and I both smiled and nodded. Yes. Long live big bro. Long live the ref. I snatched the envelope out of Wes's hand and put on a stern face. What did I just tell you to call her? Did you forget already? Wes's face fell, and he looked at the envelope in my hand with puppy dog eyes. Micah slapped my arm. Leo, stop teasing him. Give it back. I stuffed the envelope back into Wes's hand, affecting a serious tone. Well, aren't you going to thank your sis? Wes immediately mimicked a character from a period drama, bowing with his hands clasped. Thank you, sis, for your understanding. Thank you for making this happen. Micah, amused by his antics, laughed and turned to me. Look, now the little guy has learned your silver tongue. I'm worried about his future. I clapped Wes on the shoulder. Don't listen to your sis's doom and gloom prophecies. This is called being articulate, not having a silver tongue. You need to keep learning from me, improving yourself, understand? Yes, sir, big bro. If I get as articulate as you, will I get a girlfriend as beautiful as sis? I looked Wes up and down, then shook my head, joking. Your hardware is a little lacking, kid. It'll be tough. Besides, there are only a handful of women in this country as beautiful as your sis. So, I suggest you lower your standards a bit, okay? Wes looked dejected. He was silent for a long time before asking with a final glimmer of hope. What if I learn to play the guitar? Shallow. Naive. I scolded. You think your sis is with me because I can play the guitar? Your big bro has personal charisma, you get me? Micah, unwilling to listen to my boasting any longer, took Wes's hand. Come on, little guy, let's go race. We'll leave him here to admire himself. Wes made a face at me and happily followed Micah with his RC car to another part of the square. Watching them play, I smiled a genuine smile. Then, ignoring the potential for a park security guard to show up, I risked lighting a cigarette, letting the smoke drift on the breeze toward that city hidden in the clouds. I was halfway through the cigarette when the buzz of my phone interrupted my bliss. I pulled it out and saw a message from Ben. He'd sent the time and the address of the barbecue joint for tonight's get-together. A thought crossed my mind. I'd already made Wes call Micah sis. Maybe tonight I should get Ben and Jenna to call her that, too. A sign she was family. I thought I would, and I hoped they could forget about Ava and say it smoothly, naturally. After visiting Wes's grandfather at noon, Micah and I had a free afternoon. I cherished it because I knew once the holidays were over, we'd both be swamped with work. Especially Micah. This was going to be a pivotal year for her. I was sure she was planning her counterattack against Declan. Evening arrived quickly, and Micah and I started getting ready for the reunion. We stood in the bathroom, side by side, tidying up in front of the same mirror. Leo, can you hand me the towel? I passed it to her. Can you get the hairdryer out of the drawer for me? Micah pulled the hairdryer from her drawer and handed it to me. As our hands met, we both broke into a smile. Before, we never would have had the chance to ask each other for such small favors. But it was these mundane details that made a life real. After I dried my hair, I helped Micah dry hers. Then we looked at our reflections in the mirror. You should wear more layers, I reminded her. It'll be cold tonight, and from what I know of Ben, the place he picked probably doesn't even have heating. You think? I nodded with certainty. Probably. We're going for that college barbecue vibe tonight. Speaking of which, my most vivid memories are of those little pop-up food stalls the vendors would set up in tents. A whole group of us would squeeze inside, drinking beer and eating barbecue. Have you ever eaten at a place like that? Micah shook her head. Never eaten, but I've seen them. It's all about the atmosphere, just shooting the shit about everything and nothing. You probably won't like it much, though, I said honestly. In the back of my mind, I knew her upbringing and social class would make it hard for her to embrace that kind of populist culture. You don't know I won't like it if I haven't tried. I smiled at her, but I knew she was just accommodating me. It was simple logic. If she was really interested, why had she never tried it before? It was another reminder that we had so many lifestyle differences to work through. Of course, we had our similarities too. For instance, neither of us carried much cash. I was broke, and she preferred to use her card. At 7 p.m., Micah and I arrived at the designated barbecue joint, or rather, barbecue stall. At almost the exact same moment, Nathan and Ben also pulled up. We all parked on the side of the road across from the stall. Our caravan of a Q7, a Range Rover, and an A4 drew stares from all the other customers. They couldn't understand why a group of people driving luxury cars would show up at a roadside barbecue stand. But we knew what was unsaid. This was Ben's way of using college nostalgia to mend the rift between me and Nathan. After all, we'd been through 4 years of hell and back together. We got out of our cars. Ben still had his arm wrapped affectionately around Jenna, but Nathan and Ava weren't holding hands like they had before. Micah and I also maintained a slight distance. It wasn't intentional. It just seemed like Micah wasn't psychologically ready to be introduced as my girlfriend to them yet. And to be honest, neither was I. As we gathered, we exchanged Happy New Year's and offered each other cigarettes. In a rare moment of synchronicity, we were all smoking the same American Spirit yellows. After lighting up, Ben clapped Nathan on the shoulder. "How was your time abroad?" "Not bad." "All right, I brought back some stuff for you guys." Nathan went back to his car and returned with a bag. He pulled out a box and handed it to Jenna and Ben. "This watch set is for you too." Jenna immediately tore off the wrapping paper and gasped. "A Cartier watch set. Nathan, this is way too much." Nathan smiled. "You guys are like my big brother and sister-in-law. Talking about money is just insulting." Jenna draped an arm over his shoulder, her voice full of delight. "You got a good head on your shoulders, kid. All those years I spent looking after you in college weren't for nothing." "Of course. I still get warm fuzzies thinking about how you used to wash our jackets and bring us food." Jenna adopted a parental tone. "Seeing all of you so successful now warms my heart, too. It makes me feel like all that effort paid off." We all laughed. Nathan pulled another gift box from the bag and handed it to me. "Leo, you're single, so I just got you the men's watch." I glanced at Micah beside me, then back at Nathan, but I didn't take the watch. I smiled. "You're too kind, but watches feel too tight on my wrist. You should keep it, or give it to someone who will use it." My refusal made the atmosphere awkward. But from my perspective, there was no way I could accept a watch worth tens of thousands of dollars from Nathan. Ben quickly tried to smooth things over. "Leo, it's just a small token from your brother. Just take it. If you really don't like wearing it, keep it as a collector's item." Just as I was about to refuse again, Micah suddenly took my hand. Everyone saw it. The shock on their faces was simultaneous and palpable. Feeling the warmth of her palm, my heart first leaped, then settled. I held up our joined hands and smiled at the group. "I'd like to take this opportunity to share some good news. We're together. This time it's for real." Their eyes darted from me to Micah. She just smiled in response, squeezing my hand tighter. "Leo and I are dating. You're his best friends, so I hope we have a blessing." Ben was the first to applaud. "Congratulations, Ms. Micah. We're genuinely happy for you and Leo." Jenna offered her congratulations as well. When it was Nathan's turn, he handed the watch meant for me to Ava. Then he turned to me and Micah apologetically. "Sorry, I didn't know you two were official. This gift for Leo was a bit presumptuous. I'll get you a proper couples set in a few days. I wish you both happiness." I clapped him on the shoulder. "You really don't have to. Your blessing is the best gift you could give us." Nathan smiled and said nothing more. The only person who hadn't offered their congratulations was Ava. She stood at the edge of my vision, a portrait of desolation and changed times. The canvas of our past had been eroded into a blank, empty space. Ava's watery eyes met mine, a smile playing on her lips. "Congratulations to you both. I hope your love lasts an eternity." Faced with her calm blessing, Micah and I naturally accepted. We thanked her and, in turn, wished her and Nathan well. And then, everything settled into quiet. Ben put one hand on my shoulder and the other on Nathan's, his voice filled with excitement. "Today is a great day for us. So the three of us brothers have to drink until we drop? You hear me?" Nathan and I nodded. Jenna took Ava and Micah's hands, and we all headed toward the barbecue stall. Inside the tent, we crowded around a small table. Ben called over the owner and ordered 3 large pitchers of draft beer before we even started on the food. Soon, a grill was brought to our table. The 3 of us men poured ourselves huge glasses of beer and, in a silent, familiar pact, chugged the first one down. In the freezing night, the ice-cold liquid sent a sharp pain through my brain. But after the pain subsided, a reckless, exhilarating buzz took its place. I let out a heavy breath and saw that Ben and Nathan were doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. The 3 of us shared a weary smile. In truth, we no longer had the passion or the stamina of our youth. Otherwise, we would have immediately gone for a second round. Ava and Jenna expertly flipped the skewers on the grill. Jenna handed a cooked one to Micah. "Ms. Micah, care to try?" Micah nodded. "Of course. I'd love to get a taste of your college life." Jenna smiled at the group. "We were just a bunch of hooligans. But Ms. Micah, I'm curious. What was your life like when you were in college in the States? Was it like ours?" "Life was much simpler then." Jenna nodded. "Which city were you in?" "Philadelphia." Ava was in L. Sometimes I really think fate is a strange thing. People who are meant to be together will find each other, no matter how far apart they are. So I think we should cherish this connection, forget all the messy stuff, and get together like this more often. Wouldn't that be nice? After Jenna spoke, A collective silence fell over the group. She was painting a beautiful picture, but she wasn't in the thick of it. We all knew gatherings like this would become rarer and rarer. The reason I've been willing to bring Micah today was, 1, because I was genuinely nostalgic for my college days, and 2, because I hope to use this as an opportunity to finally cut ties with the past. Sometimes, the gut-wrenching drama born from the past was just exhausting. It was better to accept the sad reality of how things had changed and let go in the blank space that followed. Soon, the alcohol began to blur the edges of the evening. Nathan, who had barely spoken to Ava all night, suddenly raised his glass to her. Ava, since our friends are all here to bear witness, I want to sincerely ask you to forgive me for my irrational behavior lately. While I was away, I did a lot of thinking, and I realized I wasn't giving you your freedom. Ava frowned, cutting him off. Let's talk about our issues in private, can we? Nathan shot a pleading look at Jenna and Ben. Jenna took Ava's hand. Ava, Nathan is apologizing in front of us because he wants us to hold him accountable, to make sure he doesn't make the same mistake again. This is a good thing. Just let him finish. Ava looked at Nathan and said nothing, her silence a concession to Jenna. Nathan seemed emotional. He took a drink and continued. About you starting your ad agency, I will never stand in your way again. In fact, I'll fully support you. I'm going to move the focus of my business to Portland and help you build your company here. Ava's expression finally softened a little. Full support isn't necessary. My agency is just a small venture compared to your business. You should focus on your own career. Your moral support is enough. Nathan asked eagerly, so you'll forgive me? Do I have any other choice? Nathan tilted his head back. When he looked at Ava again, his eyes were red. He choked out, Ava, I'm just so afraid of losing you. That's why I was so desperate to keep you by my side, to build our future family. If I restricted your freedom in the process, I'm willing to compromise. Because to love someone, you have to love all of them, including the freedom they cherish. Ava's expression finally shifted. After a long moment, she said softly, thank you for your understanding and tolerance. Nathan wiped his hands over his face, then pulled Ava into a hug, as if he'd just gotten her back from the brink. Then he said to her, I've already decided to move the company to Portland. We'll settle down here. It's close to Seattle, close to Boston. It's a way to give our parents some peace of mind. Ava was silent for a moment before replying, you could decide on that. Nathan smiled and held her tighter. Then, unexpectedly, he turned to Micah. Ms. Micah, once my company moves to Portland this year, I'm hoping for a deep partnership with Aria Grande. I plan on opening high-end counters in your Portland and Seattle locations next month. I hope you can provide the necessary resources and support. Caught off guard, Micah didn't respond immediately. Ben jumped in. Ms. Micah, I think having Nathan's wine and spirits business in Aria Grande would be a great opportunity. Compared to Polaris Retail, Aria Grande is a bit weaker in that sector. And while Nathan already has a counter at Polaris, I'm sure his investment in Aria Grande will be much larger. Nathan nodded, confirming Ben's statement. Last year, I secured the exclusive distribution rights for 2 top-tier wine brands. I really want to use the Aria Grande platform to showcase my company's dominance in the industry. So the scale of the investment will be unprecedented. Micah thought for a moment. Once you have a formal proposal, we can discuss the details. As for resources, I will certainly provide the greatest possible assistance within my capacity. Nathan raised his glass with a smile. Then let me thank you in advance for your strong support, Ms. Micah. I look forward to a pleasant partnership. Micah just nodded, offering no further pleasantries. On the way back, Micah drove while I leaned back in the passenger seat, dizzy and unwilling to talk. I hadn't been able to get a word in during their business discussion. First, I wasn't in Aria Grande strategy department, so I couldn't offer any industry-specific advice. Second, I had no experience with their level of high-stakes capitalism, so I had no right to speak at all. I stared blankly out the window at the city's glittering facade, a gnawing worry for my future growing in my gut. How am I going to make it? I asked myself over and over. The question left me feeling powerless. My empty-handed existence couldn't possibly support the weight of my enormous desires. For a moment, it felt like I was trapped in a fractured space, my hand reaching for Micah's pride while my feet were chained to a desolate desert. Just then, the clean car window was suddenly covered in a dense web of raindrops. A downpour had arrived without warning. Amidst the drumming of the rain, Micah finally spoke the first words since we'd gotten in the car. Leo, what's your take on Nathan's plan to open counters at Aria Grande? It took me a moment to process her question. I just looked at her numbly, unable to form a coherent thought. Seeing my numb expression and my silence, Micah asked with concern, did you drink too much? Are you not feeling well? A little, I said. My chest feels tight. No wonder you haven't said a word. Don't drink so much next time. I nodded, but said nothing more. The topic of Nathan's counters at Aria Grande was dropped. Back at my old house, the dizziness got worse. I didn't even have the energy to wash up before collapsing onto the bed. Even with my eyes closed, the room felt like it was spinning. I felt sick. It wasn't until a cool sensation spread across my face that I felt some relief. I opened my eyes to see Micah gently wiping my face with a wet towel. I grabbed her hand. It's late. You should go home and get some rest. You drank so much. You can't be left alone. I'm staying here tonight. I'll be fine. Go home. Leo, what's wrong with you? She asked, her voice tinged with hurt. You used to always ask me to stay. Now that we're together, why are you trying to make me leave? I wasn't thinking clearly. The alcohol seemed to have activated a primal instinct not to be a burden to her. Just go home and rest, okay? I mumbled. Before I met you, I lived like this every day, and I was doing just fine, wasn't I? Micah didn't say anything. I rolled over, turning my back to her. I didn't speak either. My head was pounding, the room was spinning, and my ability to communicate was gone. I fell into a stupor. In the middle of the night, my stomach revolted. I stumbled to the bathroom and threw up until I felt completely hollowed out. I slumped to the floor, leaning against the toilet, exhausted and weak, staring blankly at the sink across from me. Finally, a desperate thirst drove me back to the living room. I picked up the kettle to pour myself some water, but it was empty. Too lazy to boil another pot, I just filled a glass with tap water and drank it all down. The icy shock started to clear my head, and I remembered the conversation I'd had with Micah before I passed out. Under the influence of alcohol, a person's words and actions often reflect their deepest, truest thoughts. So, my unconscious self had pushed Micah away, not wanting to trouble her, forgetting that she was now my girlfriend. The better she was to me, the more she accommodated me, the more inadequate I felt. As my thoughts scattered, I remembered that afternoon years ago when Ava had taken me for a ride in her brand new Cadillac. The same feeling of oppression washed over me. The seed of self-loathing had been planted back then, and my years of failure had been the fertilizer, nurturing it until it grew into a colossal tree that now dominated my values and my view of love. Frustrated, I pulled a cigarette from the pack on the coffee table and lit it. I took a tasteless drag and lay back on the sofa, tiredly staring at the ceiling as I always did. After finishing the cigarette, I went back to my room. It was only then that I noticed a thermos of hot water on the nightstand. Micah had prepared it for me before she left, but I hadn't seen it. I drunkenly chugged a glass of cold tap water instead. The irony was bitter. Even when we were enemies, Micah had never completely abandoned me. How could she now that we were a couple? Of course, she wouldn't just walk out. She would at least leave me a thermos of hot water, a post-drinking necessity. But I hadn't thought of that. My subconscious was so fixated on her beauty, her status, her wealth, that I'd trapped myself in a vicious cycle, reaching for her with one hand while desperately trying to escape with the other. Human nature is complicated. In that moment, I didn't understand myself at all, but I was undeniably trapped by a host of negative emotions. I asked myself, what triggered this? I suppose it was the initial ecstasy of being together finally fading, my rational mind taking over, forcing me to measure our relationship against the harsh reality of our differences. And in that measurement, I realized that, having been burned before, I had lost the courage that comes from blissful ignorance. For the rest of the night, I lay in bed, trying to figure out how to improve myself, a task I could no longer avoid. But I had no ideas. It wasn't until the clock tower struck 6 that it hit me. No matter how brilliant my startup idea, without funding, it was just a fantasy. The past few hours have been nothing but an idiot's empty dream. My sense of loss and confusion deepened. With no hope more sleep, I got up at 7. I made some congee early, poured into a thermos, and bought some pastries I knew Micah liked. Then I drove toward her neighborhood. When I arrived, I parked outside the community gates and called her. She picked up quickly, a yawn in her voice. The ringing had clearly woken her up, which surprised me. She usually turned her phone off or on silent when she slept. "You not up yet?" I asked. Why are you up so early?" "Couldn't sleep, so I got up." "Why didn't you turn your phone off last night?" "I was afraid you'd feel sick in the night and call me." Her words filled me with both guilt and warmth. I was silent for a moment before I said, "Sorry for making you worry. Anyway, I brought you breakfast. I'm at the gate now. Tell me which building you're in, and I'll bring it over." "Why'd you buy me breakfast?" "To spoil you." "Why do you want to spoil me?" "Because you're my girlfriend." "Oh, so you remember I'm your girlfriend now." I realized I'd walked right in her trap. She was definitely still upset about me sending her away last night. After another pause, I said, I just didn't want you to be too tired, and when I drink that much, I tend to lose control. I didn't want to ruin my heroic image in your eyes. After my somewhat flimsy explanation, Micah dropped the subject. She told me her building number and hung up. Entering the complex, I found the building and realized she didn't live in a condo, but a full-on townhouse, complete with its own private courtyard where her car was parked. In a city like Portland, where every square foot was gold, the value of this little villa was staggering. Micah opened the door, still in her cartoon print cotton pajamas. I followed her inside, immediately captivated by the meticulously designed courtyard. With its flowing pond and rock garden, it felt like I was standing in a miniature Zen garden. I was even more curious why she would give up such a beautiful living environment to stay in my old, run-down house. "This place is amazing," I said as I walked, very tasteful. Micah smiled. "My uncle gave it to me for my birthday last year." Her answer only confused me more about her relationship with Declan. Why would he lavish her with the best material things while simultaneously trying to destroy her in the boardroom? But then again, people are contradictory. Take me, for example. I desperately wanted to do things for her, but I refused to let her do things for me. In the end, Declan's contradiction was born from desire, and mine was born from self-loathing. And I knew that both his desire and my self-loathing were, in their own ways, hurting Micah. The morning sun streamed through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a glow on the pure, white dining table. Micah and I sat across from each other, eating breakfast and chatting. She placed a half-eaten raspberry pastry onto my plate. "Too sweet," she said. Even in the past, I wouldn't have minded eating her leftovers. I picked up the pastry, which she'd bitten into the shape of a crescent moon. "How do you manage to turn everything you eat into a work of art?" I asked with a laugh. "Open up. Let me see your teeth." She opened her mouth for inspection. "They're perfectly straight," I marveled. "So why are all your bite marks crooked? Can you bite a straight line?" I took the crescent-shaped pastry and bit off the two corners, instantly turning it into a rectangle. "See? Perfectly straight. Maybe that's because your teeth are crooked," she deadpanned, "so your bites come out straight." Her flawless logic left me speechless. I ate the rest of the pastry in one bite and fell silent. As we were finishing breakfast, I asked her, "What do you want for lunch? I can go out and get something to cook." Micah shook her head. "I have to go to Seattle. There's a last-minute board meeting this afternoon." I felt a pang of disappointment. "Are you coming back tonight?" "Can't say for sure. If there's a dinner banquet, I won't be able to make it." "Oh, well, drive safe. We'll talk tonight." "Okay. Will you be lonely by yourself today?" "Lonely?" The word lonely doesn't exist in my vocabulary. Can I assume this is what you call your shtick? Seeing her dead serious expression, I couldn't help but laugh. It is indeed a prime example of a shtick, but you should probably stop saying that word. It doesn't match your vibe. Micah shook her head. "From now on, whatever you say, I'll learn. Maybe you should just learn the good parts. I'll learn the good and the bad. Or you could just get rid of the bad." I smiled. "Are you digging a pit and trying to lure me in? So, are you going to jump? I'll be selective. No deep pits. I'm afraid of breaking a leg. If you break it, I'll take care of you. So jump without fear." Without thinking, I retorted, "Who needs you to take care of them?" Micah just looked at me, silent for a long moment. She then gathered her plate and walked toward the kitchen. I followed her, and, standing behind her, I wrapped my arms around her waist, playfully tackling her onto my lap. "I'm telling you," I threatened, "you're not allowed to be mad at me." I'd done something similar to her once before, but last time she'd given me a look that could kill. This time, she just looked at me, half exasperated, half amused. "So this is how you treat me when I'm mad at you?" I helped her up, grinning shamelessly. "A little punishment is better than a kiss, right?" Micah sidestepped my advance, then glanced at her watch. "I'm not playing with you anymore. I have to get to Seattle. You could do the dishes." But the meeting isn't until this afternoon. The traffic on I-5 is terrible during the holidays. It'll be noon by the time I get there, and then I have to eat. That basically kills the afternoon. "Good point. Go on then. Be careful with all the traffic." Micah nodded, but just as she was about to leave, she leaned in and suddenly kissed my cheek. It happened so fast, I barely had time to react, and then she had grabbed her purse from the living room and was in her car. As I watched her drive away, I asked myself over and over, would it really be so good to be a house husband, to let her support me? Really? After washing the dishes, I left Micah's place and spent the morning wandering around. As I was wondering how to kill the afternoon, I got an unexpected call from Chloe. She was back from her trip to Santa Fe and wanted to meet up. It was about time we had a proper talk about the bar anyway. At 2 in the afternoon, we sat across from each other at Cloudbreak Cafe, next to the Aria Grand Mall. I had tea. She had coffee. We chatted for a bit about her trip, and then the conversation turned to the bar. Chloe pulled a thick envelope from her purse. Leo, this is the bonus I promised you. I took the envelope. It felt like it had about $10,000 in cash inside. I pulled out $2,000. This is my salary for the past 2 months. I'll take this. Chloe pushed the envelope back toward me. Take it all. Otherwise, I'll feel guilt. You're the boss. You paid the salary you owe me. There's nothing to feel guilty about. Chloe was silent for a long time. The bar. It messed up your life back in Indianapolis. I'm really sorry about that. If you start bringing up Indianapolis, we'll never be able to settle this account. Forget it. Let's talk business. Chloe looked at me and nodded. Yesterday, I posted on Instagram that the 5th season is moving to a membership model. The customers are really supportive. They're all willing to get VIP cards. The bar is definitely on the right track now. So I'm planning to find an experienced manager to take over soon. I'm not going to be involved anymore. Chloe cut me off before I could finish. I know you've been thinking about leaving, but why so fast? I smiled. For new life. What kind of new life? After a brief pause, I told her, if I told you that Micah and I are dating, would you believe me? Chloe's face showed surprise, but she said, why wouldn't I? I know she's always liked you. CC said so too. I asked her, my voice lacking confidence. So, do you think we're a good match? I just want you to be happy. Which woman you're with, I don't really care. So there's no good match or bad match for me to judge. Something about her tone fell off. I shifted in my seat. I feel like you're being sarcastic, like you're calling me a player. Of course not. Then give me a straight answer. Chloe shook her head and smiled. Fine, a straight answer. You must be feeling incredibly insecure right now, right? Do you feel like your life is a mess? That you're a burden to her? Yeah, that's exactly it. God, I wish I was some rich guy. She buys me an Armani suit today. I buy her a Chanel outfit tomorrow. The day after, if she dares to buy me Versace, then the day after that I'll buy her. Chloe looked at me with a half smile. Buy her what? A damn Ferrari. Chloe finally let out a snort of laughter. Are you in a relationship or an arms race? It's not an arms race, really. I'm just using it as an example. I want us to be balanced. I really feel like I need that balance. Chloe's smile faded. Leo, I think Ava left a really deep shadow on you. You don't have to be this way. You have to know that not all women will hold you to such high standards. At least I wouldn't. Chloe's words sparked a desire in me to argue. Let's say you had a choice right now, I said. The same man. Would you want him to be rich or poor? Well, if he could be rich, that would be great. I didn't let her finish. So Micah must think the same way. We don't want to admit it, but a love backed by financial security really does eliminate a lot of problems. It's not hard for her to accommodate me for a little while, but for a lifetime? And let's be blunt, life is unpredictable. If she ever fell on hard times, I need to have enough money to maintain the standard of living she's used to, right? Chloe was silent for a moment, then finally nodded. You're right to think that way. Once love becomes rational, it can't escape the daily grind of life. And in the end, a woman wants her man to be her last line of defense against a cruel world. I'm no exception, and neither is Micah. See? So, I really need to do something. Have you figured out what you're going to do? Talking about starting a business right now isn't realistic. First, I need to find a job with room to grow. At least with a stable income. If I want to buy her a purse or a dress someday, I won't have to scrape by to do it. Chloe smiled. You really do love her. All your plans for the future are based on her. That's the attitude a man should have toward love. But love is the one thing in this world that has no warranty. Have you ever thought about what you'd do if she stopped loving you one day? I was stunned. I'd planned our love story far into the future, but I'd never imagined a scenario where we were no longer in love. But it was definitely possible. As Chloe said, love has no expiration date. That's why there are so many breakups and reunions. Frustrated, I pulled out a cigarette and took a heavy drag. If things don't work out with her, I'm done believing in love, I said. But I definitely won't let myself fall apart like I did before. I think I could carry on, fighting my way through life with the kind of grace that comes from seeing through love's illusions. You promise? I nodded. Unexpectedly, Chloe took out her phone, pressed the record button, and held it up to me. Say what you just said again. What the hell? Are you trying to jinx us? She replied with a cold look. I'd let you do what the hell you want to me. Would you dare? My point is you're jinxing us, not that. Her expression turned serious again. If you two can grow old together, of course I'll be happy for you. But if you can't, I really don't want you to go back to how you were before. That was too painful for you. So, as a friend, I need you to give me a promise. A promise that you won't live your life in pain. I looked at Chloe for a long time, then finally spoke into the phone. If one day Micah and I break up, I swear I will carry on, fighting my way through life with the grace that comes from seeing through love's illusions. Chloe nodded and saved the audio file. In my heart, I prayed, I hope I never have to listen to this recording. After leaving the cafe, I went straight to find Gil and gave him the $2,000 I'd gotten from Chloe. With that, I was finally debt-free. It felt like a new life was getting closer, but I couldn't be sure what it would look like. Maybe more happiness than sorrow, or maybe the other way around. In the evening, I messaged Micah to ask if she was coming back. She said she had a banquet to attend. So, I had a simple dinner and then went for a walk along the streets, feeling full and content. As I walked, I kept mulling over what kind of job to look for. Before I knew it, I had wandered to the East Bank Esplanade by the river. The sky had completely darkened. I sat down to rest at our familiar spot. I didn't think about my memories with Ava there, as I usually did. Instead, I remember the night I'd drunkenly thrown my phone into the river, and how Micah had come to find me. This familiar riverbank had truly witnessed all the facets of my life. I played guitar here, smoked cigarettes, laughed, cried, and felt helpless. Out of habit, I lit a cigarette, enjoying the solitude and the gentle breeze. Yes, solitude. I knew Ava wouldn't come today. Nathan was back. I didn't have to worry about an awkward chance encounter. When I got tired of standing, I sat on the grass. When I got tired of sitting, I lay down. It was so relaxing, so free. I started singing at the top of my lungs, and the night deepened around my voice. The buzz of a WhatsApp message suddenly broke the silence. I rolled over and pulled out my phone. A wave of joy washed over me. It was from Micah. I'm back. Why aren't you home? Went for a walk after dinner. Ended up at the river. I'm heading back now. You walked that far? Don't come back yet. I'll come pick you up. I feel like sitting there for a bit, too. A short while later, Micah arrived at the riverbank, the guitar I gave her slung over her shoulder. She came up to me and handed it to me. Since you're so relaxed, why don't you sing me a few songs? And you? I'll eat while I listen. Didn't you just go to a banquet? Why are you still hungry? I didn't have an appetite then. I do now. I smiled and pulled her into my arms. Is it because you saw me that you have an appetite? Are you a hamburger? French fries? I could be. It just depends on whether you dare to take a bite. Micah shook her head, indicating she didn't dare. Then she pulled a box from her bag. See? I brought my own. Tiramisu. Micah nodded, opened the box, and with a smile, lifted a piece on a fork to my mouth. Open up. I opened my mouth and took the cake. Only then did she start eating herself. Come on, sing, she urged. Sing, hallelujah. You're not Cinderella, but I want to be your Cinderella. Come on, sing, she urged again, shaking my arm. I couldn't refuse her. I smiled, strummed the guitar, and began to sing that familiar song. Well, I heard there was a secret chord that David played, and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah. As I sang, Micah peacefully ate her tiramisu. A strange sense of déjà vu washed over me. I felt like I had experienced a scene just like this before. A breeze blew in the scent of the night, and I finally remembered. Years ago, I used to sing for Ava just like this on the riverbank. Back then, I sang Rearview Mirror. Today, it was Hallelujah. Micah ate tiramisu. Ava loved mousse cake. That was the only difference. I ended the song on a long, sustained note. Micah, like a girl lost in the throes of new love, affectionately fed me another bite of her tiramisu. Then she leaned against me, her hair brushing against my face, and I breathed in its clean, fresh scent. I wanted to freeze this moment in time, but then I thought about the birthday party in a few days. If only we could go to that party in this same state of simple, easy comfort, forgetting the complexities of human nature. That would be a dream. In the darkness, Micah and I swapped roles. I ate her tiramisu while she strummed the guitar and sang me a cool, bluesy song. When she finished, she set the guitar down on the grass beside her. I took her hand and looked at it. How come you don't get your nails done anymore? Can't play guitar if I do. After a short pause, she added, Leo, I want to buy you a guitar. Your life shouldn't be without one. You're wrong. I'm not Robin. For me, a guitar is optional. Really, unless you think I'm going back to the days of playing bar gigs to make a living. Micah seemed hesitant, but she said it anyway. I know you don't like me buying you things, but I've already commissioned a custom guitar for you from a luthier in Seattle. It should be ready in a few weeks. I pulled out a cigarette and lit it, taking a heavy drag. How much did it cost? Is that important? Just curious? It gives me an idea of the quality. You'll know when you get it. Then she asked, a little anxiously, will you accept it? I nodded. A smile spread across Micah's face. She linked her arm through mine and rested her head on my shoulder, closing her eyes to enjoy the evening breeze. The next day, Cece returned to Portland from a trip back east, and Robin came with her. Since Chloe was still in town, we all made plans to get together at the Hollow City that night. I had two distinct groups of friends in this city. One was led by Ben and Jenna, the other by CC, Robin, and Chloe. It was strange. I'd known Ben's group for much longer, but we were drifting further apart. I'd only met CC and Robin after college, yet we were growing closer. Maybe it all stemmed from Ava and Nathan getting together, but I couldn't be sure if that was the whole story. Around 7 p.m., we arrived at the Hollow City. The reunion between Micah and CC was touching. They hugged deeply, telling each other how much they'd missed one another. It seemed only with CC could Micah show the kind of warmth typical between best friends. I remember the other night with Ben's group. She had been polite but cool the entire time. Inside, Mike and I sat on one side of the booth, with CC and Robin across from us. Chloe, by comparison, seemed a bit like a third wheel. Soon, a table full of Cajun food and drinks arrived. We started eating and chatting animatedly. CC raised her glass to Chloe. "For the superstar. I heard your new show is breaking rating records all over the country. Congratulations." "Thanks," Chloe said, smiling as she raised her glass. Then Micah, in a rare move, proactively raised her glass to Chloe. "Your show is really good. I've been binge-watching it." Chloe was taken aback for a second before raising her glass to Micah. "Thanks for the compliment. Can you give me a spoiler? Who does the handsome prince end up with?" Seeing Micah's earnest expression, Chloe looked a bit awkward. It was the kind of awkwardness that comes from a natural distance between two people. CC couldn't help but laugh. She put her arm around Micah's shoulder. "Honey, could you be any cuter? I thought you were just being polite about the show, but you actually watched it." I jumped in. I can vouch for her. She's seriously been following Chloe's show. She was just discussing the plot with me the other day. Chloe looked incredulous, clearly realizing now that Micah hadn't just been making polite conversation. "Are you sure you want a spoiler?" she finally asked Micah. "Don't listen," I told Micah. "It'll ruin the suspense, and then you won't have anything to watch tonight. You'd be better off getting an autograph from our superstar here. After all, you're officially a fan now." While I didn't expect Micah and Chloe to become best friends, I did hope they could bridge the distance between them. That's why I made the joke. But to my surprise, Micah actually took a notebook out of her purse and handed it to Chloe. "In that case, could I trouble you for an autograph, superstar?" Chloe finally broke into a genuinely friendly smile. She took the notebook and signed her name with a flourish. In that moment, I was moved. I knew that when Micah joined us in calling Chloe superstar and asked for her autograph, she was making a real effort to become part of my world. I just wasn't sure if she knew that Chloe was the woman from the phone call about an abortion that very first night we met in my old house. The atmosphere remained great throughout the meal. Robin and CC had good news for us, too. They were officially a couple. Micah and I were thrilled. Robin was my best friend, and CC was Micah's only real confidant in the country. Even Micah, who rarely drank, swapped her water for a beer to toast them. It seemed like we all had a good start to the year. Even Chloe, though she hadn't found love yet, was seeing her acting career take off. I had every reason to believe that our lives were all heading in a happier direction. After the gathering, Chloe went back to her hotel, CC went with Micah to her townhouse, and Robin came back to my old house with me. Opportunities for us to hang out like this were getting rarer, so we had to cherish any chance we got to talk. Robin and I lay in bed, each habitually lighting a cigarette. I smiled at him. "Tell me, bro, what finally made you decide to forget the past and accept CC?" "I'm tired," he said, "and it's time I found a dependable woman and thought about marriage." "What about you? What's the motivation behind you and Micah getting together?" "Love, I guess." "Does that sound pretentious?" "Not pretentious. A woman like her, it's hard for any man not to admire her. You were just badass enough to turn that admiration into love. And she has feelings for you, too. So it's mutual." I took another drag, then stubbed out the cigarette. "So you're telling me you don't have any feelings of love for CC, even now?" I asked seriously. Robin stubbed out his cigarette too, a blank look on his face. "Love is a luxury for me," he said after a long pause. "But since I've chosen this relationship, I won't let CC down. We'll get married." For a moment, I didn't know what to say, but Robin's answer was what I'd expected. As his brother, I just hoped he would keep his promise to marry CC. And I hoped even more that the old saying about love growing over time wasn't just nonsense, that would eventually work its magic on them. After a moment of silence, Robin lit another cigarette. "Do you plan on marrying Micah?" Hearing the word marriage so suddenly felt strange. In my subconscious, it felt incredibly distant. And Micah? I wondered how she felt about it. Did it feel just as distant to her? On a whim, I decided I wanted to talk to her about it. Forgetting Robin for a second, I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, intending to send her a WhatsApp message. After thinking for a long time, I sent Micah a message. "What are your thoughts on marriage?" I put my phone aside, took a drag of my cigarette, and finally answered Robin. Until my life is stable. The word marriage feels way too far off. Robin nodded. I never used to think about it, either. But this time when I went back east, I saw my mom and dad, and I suddenly felt like they'd gotten old. I can't describe the feeling. All these years, I should have been the one supporting them, but I never have. Robin tilted his head back, exhaling a thick plume of smoke. In the swirling haze, I could see his guilt and regret. Robin's compromise made sense. In the end, we can't resist the pressure of time. Love remains elusive, and eventually exhausted, we stop chasing that initial, perfect love and just find someone to make a life with for better or worse. In the midst of our silence, Micah finally replied. She messaged me back. Why the sudden question? I stared at the message for a long time. The word marriage must have been foreign to her, too. So, having no immediate answer, she tossed the ball back into my court. Since I didn't get a real response, I tactfully dropped it, just messaging back, just asking, and telling her to get some rest. But in my heart, I knew that on this long march of love, we still had a very, very long way to go. Time marched on. Tomorrow was Declan's birthday party, and I spent the entire night in a state of anxiety. In truth, I wasn't psychologically prepared to attend as Micah's boyfriend. I knew I'd inevitably be asked questions like, so, what do you do? And it would be awkward for both me and Micah. Unable to sleep, I made myself some tea and opened my laptop, browsing job listings on various websites. In the past few days, I had handed over management of the 5th season back to Chloe, and she had efficiently hired a new bar manager. So, as a temporarily free man, I had started preparing for my new job search. After sending out a few resumes, I finally closed my laptop. It was already midnight. Lying back in bed, I habitually picked up my phone and saw an unread message from Micah. She wanted me to get up early tomorrow to go with her to buy a birthday present for Declan. I replied, no problem. She messaged back almost instantly. Why are you still up? Not tired yet. You're not sleeping either. I'm working on the first quarter business plan for Aria Grande. Almost done. Okay, see you tomorrow then. See you tomorrow. I let out a sigh for no reason, placed my phone on the nightstand, and lit my last cigarette before bed. But the oppressive feeling in my chest didn't ease. I felt like I was being torn in two, one half desperate to get through the initial trials of our relationship, the other half frustrated by my awful situation. It was a terrible feeling. I had insomnia that night. Despite the lack of sleep, my alarm woke me up early the next day. I felt groggy and drained. After washing up, I pulled a reasonably decent suit out of my closet and put it on, then started making breakfast. A short while later, Micah arrived. From the moment she walked in the door, I stared at her. She hadn't made any special effort to dress up. She was just wearing a simple, professional outfit she would normally wear to work. You're going to your uncle's birthday party today. All those high society people will be there. Aren't you going to get dolled up? Micah shook her head, then said, let's eat breakfast quickly. We're tight on time. We need to get to Seattle before noon. I knew she hadn't dressed up to accommodate me. It wouldn't look right for us to be holding hands if I was dressed so plainly while she was dazzling. The weight of my burden grew heavier, and a fierce struggle churned within me. She was the CEO of Aria Grande. Dressing like this was absolutely inappropriate. But I couldn't get over my own hang-ups. At that moment, I understood more profoundly than ever that no matter how perfect you imagine love to be, you can never escape the cage of reality. No one can live completely outside of society. You have to play by its rules. Finally, with great difficulty, I managed to smile. Let's pick up a suit for me on the way. Micah looked surprised, but she quickly understood my meaning and nodded. I was grateful she didn't ask why. It saved me from some of the disappointment that came with my surrender. But only some. In my heart, I was still disappointed. After breakfast, Micah and I went to the mall. She bought me a Burberry suit. After picking out a gift for Declan, we drove to Seattle. About an hour later, we arrived at Declan's villa. The luncheon today was a family affair, attended only by relatives. The evening banquet was for friends and key executives from Aria Grande. Micah parked the car outside, waiting for the gate to open. I instinctively glanced into the courtyard. It was already filled with all kinds of luxury cars. It looked like a lot of relatives were here for the family lunch. The pressure I felt was unavoidable. After weighing my options, I finally turned to Micah. Maybe I should skip the family lunch today. I'll just join everyone for the banquet tonight. Why? I was silent for a moment before answering honestly. I'm not psychologically prepared. I don't have the confidence to face your family as your boyfriend. If your family asks about my job, it will be hard for me to answer. And I'm sure it would be hard for them to accept that I'm temporarily unemployed. Why do you have to tie my family's opinion of my boyfriend to his job? If you could put yourself in my shoes, I think you'd understand. As we argued, the housekeeper opened the gate. But Micah didn't drive in. She looked at me, her expression complicated. Suddenly, a car horn blared behind us. We both instinctively looked back and saw a white Audi, our 8 blocked by our car. A young woman in her 20s, wearing a red coat, got out. "That's my sister," Micah said. "Declan's daughter," I thought to myself, and couldn't help but glance back again. She was getting closer to Micah and me, and I finally got a good look at her. Her eyes and the curve of her brows held a faint echo of Micah's, but her style was aggressively flamboyant. Even her walk carried a sharp, arrogant energy. But I had to admit, she was a beautiful woman. Stunning even. Compared to Micah's beauty, she lacked a certain depth and grace, but she made up for it with a haughty, cutting edge. Milan, as I would soon learn her name was, rolled down her window. She tucked a strand of her short hair behind her ear and smiled at Micah. "Sis, what are you doing stalled out here? Why not just drive in?" Before Micah could answer, Milan's gaze swept over to me. "Is this your boyfriend?" she asked. Micah glanced at me, then said to her, "Let me introduce you. This is Leo." Then to me, "Leo, this is my sister, Milan." Micah and Milan. The names clicked together in my head, a play on color and light. Their fathers, Marcus and Declan, must have been incredibly close once to have chosen names for their daughters that complemented each other so perfectly. I managed a smile and a nod. "Hi, Milan. Nice to meet you." Milan sized me up again before speaking. "To be my sister's boyfriend, you must be pretty damn exceptional." I felt a flush of awkwardness, unsure how to respond. Micah came to my rescue. "Milan, head back to your car. I'm pulling in now." Milan gave me one last look before turning and walking back to her own vehicle. As Micah drove through the gates and into the courtyard, I knew there was no escaping the excruciating family dinner that awaited me. We got out of the car, and I was immediately blinded by the sheer number of luxury vehicles parked in the drive. Gleaming among the Porsches and Mercedes, I even spotted a few government-issue sedans. Someone in Micah's family was in politics. It made sense. It would be hard to maintain an empire this vast without some official backing. Steeling myself, I followed Micah toward the mansion, Milan falling into step beside us. Once inside, the opulent decor sent my head spinning all over again. In my entire life, I had never set foot in a villa this extravagant. I fought to keep my composure, my eyes scanning the room. Declan was sitting on a plush sofa, chatting with a group of men of varying ages, all of whom radiated an aura of immense power. Micah squeezed my hand and led me to her uncle. "Uncle Declan, happy birthday." I was a beat too slow, but I managed to echo her. "Happy birthday, Mr. Declan." Declan set down his cigar, his eyes falling to our intertwined hands. He looked me over, a small smile playing on his lips. "Young man, I believe we've met." I nodded. "At the Aria Grand in Portland. You were on your way to a meeting." Micah took over. "Uncle, this is my boyfriend, Leo. He came especially to wish you a happy birthday." The moment the words left her mouth, every eye in the room swiveled to me, their gazes like a physical inspection. The smile vanished from Declan's face. He took another drag from his cigar. "Is that so? Well, young man, since you're Micah's boyfriend, and since so many of her elders are here today, why don't you give us a detailed introduction? Let's get to know you. Comprehensively." The words detailed and comprehensively hung in the air, making it clear that a simple, polite summary wouldn't cut it. But the truth was mortifying. I couldn't just invent a new life story in front of this room of seasoned-old sharks. Just as I was about to throw myself to the wolves, Micah tightened her grip on my hand. Her voice was firm, resolute. "Uncle, he's just an ordinary man. But we love each other." I looked at Micah, stunned by the simple power of her declaration. My palm broke out in a cold sweat, slick and damp against hers. Declan's brow furrowed, his voice laced with authority. "Micah, it doesn't matter that your father is gone. I've always treated you as my own daughter. When it comes to your relationships and your future marriage, I have to give you my input." "It's your right to give me your opinion," Micah responded, her voice retaining its usual calm. "But I also have the right to choose who I love. Today is your birthday. I don't want this to ruin your mood. Please be happy. Don't spoil the party for everyone else, okay?" Declan glanced at the people around him and finally bit back whatever he was about to say. He shot me one more withering look. Micah pulled me away toward the other side of the room, and we found an empty corner to sit in. A sour, unnameable feeling churned in my stomach. More than anything, I felt like I had failed Micah. It was my humble background, my chronic lack of achievement, that had forced her to endure this humiliation. Our little corner felt like an isolated island, ostracized by the rest of the world. Even though Micah appeared calm, I could see the helplessness and hurt in her eyes. I didn't know what to say. Any words of comfort would have sounded hollow and pathetic in a place like this. Leo, I'm sorry, she said softly, but we're a couple. We're going to have to face this sooner or later. I hope you don't mind that I brought you here today. I'm the one who should be sorry. If I had anything to my name, you wouldn't have to be in such a difficult position. A glint of tears appeared in Micah's eyes, but she forced a smile. I don't care what you have. I only care if what you feel for me is real. A hot sting pricked my own eyes, and my vision blurred. The memory of that day at Ava's house years ago, the same judgment, the same shame, suddenly superimposed itself over this moment. For a terrifying second, Micah's face even blended with Ava's, and the overlap tore me apart. I was walking the same disastrous path all over again. The spell was broken when Milan appeared at our side. Her voice was cold. Leo, right? I need to talk to my sister. Can you give us a minute? I looked at her, the undisguised contempt in her voice igniting a spark of anger deep inside me. I fought it down, forcing a tight smile. I stood up, and as Micah watched me, I walked out of the mansion. I had a pretty good idea of what she was about to say to her sister. Outside, the sunlight felt wonderful. A warm, early spring breeze seemed to carry the scent of life and hope, but it did nothing to lift the weight of my despair. I lit a cigarette, took a long drag, and exhaled forcefully. But even the smoke couldn't penetrate the wall of mansions and luxury cars in front of me. The feeling of suffocation intensified. I was only halfway through the cigarette when the housekeeper who had let us in approached me. She looked at me apologetically. I'm sorry, Mr. Leo, but Miss Milan has asked me to ask you to leave the property. I glanced back inside, where Milan was deep in conversation with Micah. A wave of pure humiliation washed over me, so intense that it made me laugh. I bit down hard and nodded. Right, I'll go. I turned to leave without a second thought, but the housekeeper hurried after me, pulling a $20 bill from her pocket and holding it out. Mr. Leo, Miss Milan said to give you this for a taxi. I stopped in my tracks, my eyes, burning with rage, fixed on the garish green of the bill. After a long moment, I pulled out my own wallet, took out two 20s, and pressed them into the housekeeper's hand. This is for your Miss Milan, I said, my voice dangerously low. Thank her for the eye-opener. I had no idea it was possible for a woman to be so stunningly stupid. The moment I stepped out of the villa's gates, the crushing weight that had been suffocating me vanished. But the humiliation clung to me as sticky, inescapable residue. I walked along the asphalt road for a while until I finally spotted a taxi and flagged it down. On the ride back toward the city, my mind was a total blank. I couldn't see a future. I had no idea how to even approach my relationship with Micah anymore. I finally understood. We had both blindly underestimated the pressure that the real world puts on love. Suddenly, I felt like I deserved this. Micah had never really been in love before. She didn't understand the immense strain that a gap in status could create. But I did. I knew exactly what it was like. So why'd I throw myself into this without a second thought? Maybe because deep down, I still yearn for that crystalline city in the sky, for a love untouched by the dust of the mundane world. After arriving downtown, I went straight to the bus station, planning to head back to Portland. But then my phone rang. It was Micah. I hesitated for a moment before answering. Leo, where did you go? On my way back to Portland. I'm so sorry. Milan shouldn't have made you leave. But she was targeting me, not you. Please don't be angry, okay? You don't have to console me, I said, my voice flat. She wasn't targeting you, and she wasn't targeting me. She was targeting poverty. Don't you think I look pathetic standing there among your friends and family? I embarrassed you in front of them. It hurts me when you say that. I fell silent, the bitter taste in my mouth intensifying. No matter how wronged I felt, I shouldn't be taking it out on Micah, who was just as much a victim in this. I finally softened my tone. I'll work harder. For you, and for me. You just try to be happy. Time will give us the answers for the rest. By afternoon, I was back in my old apartment in Portland. The first thing I did was peel off the Burberry suit. Then I collapsed onto the sofa, staring at a future I couldn't see. I chain-smoked, completely ignoring the gnawing hunger in my stomach from having skipped lunch. I asked myself, why does this hurt so much? Because I love her. Otherwise, I would just walk away from this relationship without a second thought. At worst, I'd go back to my old life. At least I'd be free. But I couldn't let go. So the only thing I could do now was to channel all this humiliation and self-loathing into fuel. I had to build something for myself, a career that would let me stand tall and face the world, face all those people who had once looked down on me. The sky outside darkened. I finally made myself a bowl of instant ramen. After forcing down the flavorless noodles, I was gripped by the panic of having nothing to do. I didn't want to get blackout drunk at a bar, so I chose my other coping mechanism, walking aimlessly to clear my head. I hadn't set a destination, but my feet carried me instinctively to the East Bank Esplanade. This place had become my only sanctuary in the city. I needed to find some comfort, some kind of anchor here. I lay down on the withered grass, letting the spring breeze wash over me. My heart gradually calmed, and wrapped in exhaustion, I drifted into sleep. I don't know how long I was out before I felt someone gently shaking me. I blinked my eyes open. Ava was sitting beside me. She smiled. "Leo, we meet again." I sat up, habitually pulling a cigarette from the pack and lighting it. "I come here a lot these days. You, not so much. Work has been crazy, but I still come by every now and then." "Oh, what about Nathan? Doesn't he come with you?" "He's even busier than I am. He's been in Shenzhen for a few days." She paused, then asked, "Have you had a lot on your mind lately?" I let out a heavy sigh, a helpless smile on my face. "You could say that. Trouble with Micah? It's work stuff. I didn't want to get into it with her, so I changed the subject." "Did you really bring a can of gasoline to Gil's studio that time?" Ava looked startled for a second, then laughed. "It was filled with water. I just wanted to scare him a little." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You really did scare the hell out of him. I never realized you had such world-class acting skills." "It had nothing to do with acting." "Then what did it have to do with?" Ava pursed her lips, but didn't answer. We lapsed into silence. After about 5 minutes, Ava suddenly stood up and walked toward the riverbank. I thought she was leaving, but instead, she opened the trunk of her car and pulled out a guitar case. She walked back, took out the guitar, and stood in front of me. I looked at her, confused. "What's this?" "I'm not giving it back to you. I just want you to play one more song on it." I didn't answer right away. I just stared at the guitar, at the spots on the fretboard that were faded and worn from the sweat of my own hands. A powerful sense of familiarity washed over me. Finally, I took the guitar from her. "What do you want to hear?" "Lover, You Should Have Come Over." Jeff Buckley. I ran through the song in my head, mapping out the chords. It felt manageable. I nodded at her, then my fingers found the strings, and the haunting melody of the song filled the quiet air. I thought it would be my solo performance, but as I played, Ava began to sing. "My kingdom for a kiss upon her shoulder. It's never over. All my riches for her smiles when I slept so soft against her. It's never over. All my blood for the sweetness of her laughter. It's never over. She's the tear that hangs inside my soul forever." Her voice was full of a raw, unmistakable emotion, especially on the line, "Too young to hold on and too old to just break free and run." I found myself sinking into the lyrics, lost in them, because for both of us, they were a summary of our story, laced with the deepest irony. Lost in the moment, Ava suddenly did something that caught me completely off guard. She snatched the guitar from my hands and, without a moment's hesitation, hurled it into the dark, deep waters of the Willamette River. Watching the guitar bob on the waves, my heart twisted with a pain so sharp I couldn't breathe. Ava looked at me, tears in her eyes, but a smile on her face. Maybe this is the best ending. The body of the guitar was already taking on water. I could see it was about to sink, to be lost forever. In that instant, all my reason shattered. I tore off my down jacket, vaulted over the railing, and plunged headfirst into the freezing river. I swam desperately toward the sinking guitar, but the current was pulling it further and further away. My thick winter clothes, now completely waterlogged, weighed me down like an anchor. The shock of the icy water was draining my strength. I swallowed mouthful after mouthful of river water, but some hidden reserve of energy kept me going, kept me chasing that guitar. I could hear Ava's muffled shouts from the bank, but the sound of the wind and waves drowned her out. With one last burst of strength, I reached out, and my fingers closed around the neck of the guitar just as it was about to go under. Overcome with a wild joy, my energy suddenly gave out. I choked on more water, and for the first time, I felt a stab of real fear, followed by an overwhelming will to live. I used the last of my strength to swim back toward the shore, but my calf cramped from the extreme cold. Panic and fear seized me. I had never felt so close to death. Just then, Ava, on the bank, tore off her own jacket and sweater. Wearing only a thin base layer, she jumped into the river and swam hard towards me. "Leo, hang on. You have to hang on." The primal urge to survive took over. I kicked my legs and thrashed my arms, trying to keep my head above water. Ava finally reached me. She slipped under my arm, hooking it over her shoulder, and together we fought our way back to the bank. The cold wind sliced through us. We collapsed on the ground, both of us exhausted, coughing violently, water streaming from our clothes and pooling around us. The guitar was dripping too, the water running in a line down the strings, the three puddles of water merging into one, as if all our shared history was flowing back into the river. Ava's lips were white, her body trembling uncontrollably. With my last bit of energy, I crawled to where I'd thrown my jacket, then crawled back and draped it over her shoulders. I pulled my phone from pocket, my fingers fumbling to call 911, terrified she would succumb to hypothermia. But Ava snatched the phone from my hand and shook her head, her voice choked with sobs. "Why did you do that? Why would you risk your life for that guitar? Right now, I'm terrified. I regret it." But at that moment, I didn't have time to think. Watching the guitar sink, it felt like I was sinking to the bottom of the river myself. It was just instinct. I had to do it. Ava stared at me, her expression a complex mix of emotions. I couldn't tell if the drops rolling down her face were tears or river water, but the trembling of her lips was real. She opened her mouth to speak several times, but nothing came out. I was so cold, I felt like I was about to shatter. Ava took the jacket off her shoulders and put it back on me. Then she grabbed her own dry sweater and coat from the grass. Right in front of me, she stripped off her soaked shirt and pulled on the dry layers. She looked at the still dripping guitar. "Leo, is it still usable?" I shook my head. "It's basically ruined." "Ruined is ruined." Ava stared at the guitar, lost in thought. I picked it up from the ground. "If you're going to destroy it for good," I said to her, "do it when I'm not around. It's been with me for a lot of years." Ava took the guitar from my hands. For the first time, she looked down, her voice low. "I understand what you mean. Let me take you home. You don't have. It's hard to get a cab here. If you stay out here any longer, I'm going to get seriously sick." I looked up at the road, which was mostly empty. I finally nodded. Ava cranked the heat in the car, but we were both still shivering, especially me, since I'd been in the water longer. Still, I was grateful. We'd saved 2 lives. In that moment of extreme danger, I had no doubt that we both could have easily drowned from exhaustion in that deep, dark river. The car sped through the streets and quickly reached my neighborhood. Just as Ava was about to turn into the complex, I saw Micah's Audi Q7 pulling ahead of us. "Stop here," I said immediately. "Just pull over to the side of the road." As I got out, Ava said, "Leo, go change your clothes right away. Don't get sick." "Yeah, you too." She nodded. After I closed her door, she started the car and drove away. I walked into the complex and sat down in a small, neglected garden. Even though my teeth were chattering from the cold, I didn't want to go back to the apartment. I had no idea how I was going to explain being soaking wet to Micah. My phone rang again. I didn't have to look to know it was her. I let it ring until the last second before answering, trying not to speak first, afraid she'd hear the tremble in my voice. "Leo, where are you?" My mind raced. At Ben's place. Having a few drinks." "Are you?" "Yeah. I gotta go." "Leo." I could hear something was wrong in her tone. "What is it? Is something else wrong? Where are you right now? Tell me the truth." I made one last desperate attempt. "I told you, I'm at Ben's." "Did you forget that every single senior manager from Aria Grande was at my uncle's birthday party tonight? I left early. So what do you think Ben is right now?" I felt like an idiot. I'd been so careless. Finally, I gave in. "I'm in a complex. I'm on my way up." Micah hung up. I walked toward the building with a feeling of dread. I found Micah already downstairs, waiting for me at the entrance. I forced myself to walk toward her. Her eyes widened in shock when she saw my sodden state. "Leo, what happened to you?" I was still trying to bluff. A city street sweeper drove by and sprayed me. Just my luck. The trust that had once been in her face was gone, replaced by a familiar look of disappointment. She frowned. "Do we have to have lies between us?" I clenched my jaw, adopting a stance of silent, stubborn defiance, even as I shivered uncontrollably. Micah sighed. "Just get upstairs and change." I nodded. As much as I desperately wanted to get out of my wet clothes, I let her walk ahead of me. The moment we were inside, I ran to the bathroom, stripped off my wet clothes, and put on a bathrobe. I went to my room, changed into underwear, cranked up the space heater, and buried myself under the covers, still trembling. Micah came into my room with a cup of hot water. Though she was clearly upset, her voice was still full of concern. "Let me take you to the hospital. It's not that serious. I'll be fine in a bit." Micah stared at me for a long time. "Tell me," she said finally, "did you try to kill yourself? Did you jump in a river?" Her words made me spit out the hot water I just sipped. I coughed for a solid minute, then stared at her in disbelief. "Why would I jump in the river?" Micah nodded grimly. "Because you would. You have a history." I suddenly remembered that time long ago when I called her, threatening to jump. She was right. I really did have a history. It seemed I was a lot more fragile than I thought. I didn't want to create any more turmoil in our relationship, so I couldn't tell Micah that I'd jumped in the river to save the guitar. But I couldn't come up with a better lie, either, so I just stayed silent. Micah, however, wasn't giving up on the truth. She kept looking at me with questioning eyes. I had a few drinks today, I finally mumbled. I was a little out of it, and I slipped and fell into the river. So you didn't tell me because you didn't want me to worry. Is that it? I was ashamed of the lie and didn't answer. Micah took my silence as a confession. She hugged me, her voice choked with emotion. I'm sorry. I'm the one who put you in a bad mood. I should have come back from Seattle sooner to be with you. I felt helpless. After a moment, I said, I'm the one who's not good enough. I'm the one who should be blaming myself. Micah shook her head, stopping me from saying more. Overcome with guilt, I put my hands on her shoulders. You must be exhausted today. You should go home and get some rest. I'm going to make you some ginger tea. I'll leave after you drink it. It was almost 11 p.m. by the time Micah left. Afterward, my mind inevitably started racing. I reminded myself to keep my distance from Ava. I knew that even an accidental meeting between us could become a hidden danger for my relationship with Micah. Finally, after drinking the ginger tea and breaking out in a sweat, I felt a wave of exhaustion. Just as I was drifting off, my phone buzzed with a text. I assumed it was Micah checking in on me and quickly sat up to read it. But it was from Ava. Leo, are you sick? It was a message of concern, after all. After a moment's hesitation, I replied, No, I'm fine. How about you? Are you okay? Caught a bit of a chill. I'm at the hospital on a 4 drip, but it's nothing serious. A few years ago, I would have dropped everything, bought some nourishing late-night snack, and rushed to the hospital to be by her side. But times had changed. All I could do now was translate that concern into a dry, sterile text message. Okay, well, rest up after the drip and don't overdo it. I thought that would be the end of our conversation, but another message came through. You mentioned you were worried about work. My company is about to pitch for the annual advertising contract for a real estate firm. If you're interested, you could help follow up. If we land it, you get a 10% commission on the project. What do you think? I did a quick mental calculation. An annual real estate ad contract would be at least $1 million project. 10% of that was $100,000, maybe more. For someone unemployed like me, the offer was incredibly tempting. After a moment's thought, I texted her back. Thanks for the kind offer, but I'll figure out my work situation on my own. I wish your company the best. Ava didn't reply. Maybe my formal, distant tone had finally created the space between us that I needed. And right now, what I needed most was quiet. I needed to figure out my career in peace. The next day, I got up early, had a simple breakfast, and embarked on the long, grueling process of job hunting. It wasn't until dusk that I finally stopped, but the results were disappointing. No company seemed particularly interested. Most just told me to wait patiently for a response. I was anxious, but it was what I expected. The world isn't short on talent. I learned that much when I was looking for a job in Indianapolis, where I'd only landed a decent position with Liz's help. As the sky grew darker, I dragged my tired body to Pioneer Courthouse Square, the place where Micah and I often raced our RC cars. I found a wooden bench and sat down, watching the kids playing with their own cars, an indescribable envy welling up inside me. Mister, would you like to buy a flower? I looked up to see a little girl standing beside me. I smiled at her. How do you know I need a flower? Because you have a girlfriend. I've seen you bring her here to play with RC cars lots of times. I wasn't selling flowers back then, though. Since I had nothing better to do, I started chatting with her. So why are you selling flowers now? A girl in my class is sick. She's my friend. She's really pretty, but she doesn't have money for the doctor. So all of us good friends sell flowers in the square after school to earn money for her treatment. My house is closest to this square, so I sell them here. Mister, please buy a few. Dottie would be so thankful. How much for one? $5. I pulled $200 from my wallet. I'll take them all. The little girl seemed to be doing the math in her head. After a moment, she said, Mister, I only have 30 flowers here. That's only $150. The extra 50 is from me to you and Dottie for candy. Okay, I said, handing her the money and taking the bouquet from her. Thank you, mister, she said happily. She was so cute that I decided to tease her. How about a thank you kiss for the mister? No way. Your girlfriend is too pretty. I can't kiss you. Then she won't let you buy my flowers anymore. Her response made me burst out laughing, and the gloom of the day finally lifted. I ruffled her hair. I'm just kidding. You should save your kisses for your future little boyfriend. Now that you've sold all your flowers, you should hurry home. The little girl nodded, said, Bye, mister, and skipped off toward the edge of the square. I looked at the bouquet in my hands, then opened my wallet. I had about $2,000 in cash left. It was more than enough for a nice candlelight dinner. Since we'd started dating, I realized I'd never once properly given her a bouquet of flowers or taken her out for a romantic meal. I drove to the Aria Grand building, stood by the side of the road with the bouquet, and waited for Micah to get off work. I was surprised to see a white Audi R8 and a Ferrari 458 parked a short distance away, both with Seattle plates. I instantly recognized the R8 as Milan's, but I had no idea who owned the Ferrari. It could have just been a random person. I lit a cigarette. I fully expected Micah to come out with that woman I now thoroughly despised, but I wasn't going to hide. I was almost finished with my cigarette when I finally saw Micah and Milan walking out with the crowd, heading toward the parked R8. Looking closer, I was shocked to see a familiar face trailing behind them. Abner, the Ivy League turtle himself. I couldn't believe he was back in the country. While I was still processing this, the three of them reached the cars. Micah seemed to be heading for the R8, but Milan gently pushed her toward Abner. In the end, Micah got into his Ferrari. A moment later, both supercars pulled into traffic and disappeared from my sight. I stood there for a long time before finally walking back to my car. I tossed the bouquet onto the passenger seat, closed my eyes, and leaned back against the headrest, feeling utterly drained. Suddenly, there was a knock on the window. I opened my eyes to see Ben standing outside. I rolled down the window, and he grinned at me. "Hey man, waiting for Miss Micah. She had to leave early for something. You busy? Want to grab a drink with me?" "You don't look so good," Ben said, pulling open the car door. His eyes immediately landed on the bouquet on the passenger seat, and a look of understanding crossed his face. Ben moved the flowers to the back seat. "Where do you want to go?" I started the car and said without thinking, "A bar." This time, I didn't go to the Fifth Season. I went to a dive bar downtown that had been my go-to spot for getting wasted over the years. I ordered a table full of beers. Ben clinked his bottle against mine. "Things not going well with Miss Micah." I drained half the bottle in one go before answering. "Tell me honestly, man, do you think we have a shot?" Ben was silent for a long time. Then he slowly shook his head. He didn't explain why, but he didn't need to. If he had said yes, I would have known he was lying. I closed my eyes and chugged the rest of the beer, a desperate attempt to numb the pain. I knew, logically, that Micah and Abner were just friends, but I still couldn't stand it. The thought that he had once confessed his feelings to her made it even worse. And seeing Milan's attitude toward him today, it was obvious he was the family's preferred candidate. I was just the poor schmuck they'd kicked out of the villa with $20. The cold beer flowed into my stomach, and in the midst of my depression, I felt a twisted kind of pleasure, a temporary oblivion from all my troubles. Ben snatched the bottle from my hand, his face serious. "Slow down. Let's just talk. What's there to talk about?" I said, popping the cap off another beer with my teeth and taking a huge swig. Ben pushed the bottle down. "Did you know? There's a major shake-up happening at Aria Grande. Declan's daughter has been transferred to Portland. She's now in charge of the mall's daily operations." I was stunned. I looked at Ben for confirmation. "Declan's daughter? In Portland?" "Yeah. It's obviously a move to keep Mike in check. But Ms. Micah is planning to transfer Mr. Clark to the Seattle headquarters to counter him. What good can Mr. Clark do all by himself in Seattle?" Ben shook his head. "You're underestimating Ms. Micah. She has a lot of loyal people at headquarters, but they're not really involved in the day-to-day management. She needs Mr. Clark to go there and leverage their influence to get involved in the Seattle operations and push back against Declan." I nodded, not saying anything more, but I had faith in Mr. Clark. I was sure his years of corporate experience would make him a real asset to Micah. After a brief silence, I picked up another beer and started drinking again. At that moment, I craved the release of this self-destructive indulgence. It was the only way to temporarily forget the bitter, crushing reality. "Leo, slow down." Ben warned, his patience wearing thin. "Dude, I asked you to come drink with me, not to be my babysitter. I'm finally in the mood to drink, so don't ruin it, okay?" I just texted Miss Micah. She said she's on her way. I glared at Ben, annoyed that he'd contacted her, but in the end, I didn't say anything. I wasn't so drunk that I didn't know he was just trying to help. A little while later, two women walked into the bar. Through the flashing lights, I recognized them immediately, Micah and Milan. They walked over to our table. Ben stood up and greeted Micah formally. "Ms. Micah." Micah gave him a grateful smile. "When not at work, Ben, you can just call me Micah. Thanks for keeping Leo company tonight." Ben smiled back, then turned to Milan and nodded. "Director Milan." Milan gave a slight nod in return. She didn't seem to hate him just for being my friend. It seemed her arrogance hadn't completely consumed her yet. Of course, it probably helped that Ben had a friendly, handsome face. "Leo, let me take you home," Micah said to me. "Give me your car keys." Before I could answer, Milan cut in, her voice dripping with ice as she glared at me. "You go drinking, and then you make my sister come pick you up? Who the hell do you think you are?" I finally lost it. Does shitting on me make your tits grow bigger or something? Milan's face flushed with anger. I really don't understand what my sister sees in a lowlife like you. Leo. Milan, this is a public place. Could you two please stop? Micah said, pulling Milan behind her. I knew it was pointless to argue with her. I lit a cigarette, trying to suppress the fire in my gut. Suddenly, 3 men stumbled out from a corner table, obviously drunk. They swaggered over to Micah and Milan. One of them slurred, "Look at these two. Pretty from a distance, even hotter up close. What do you say, girls? Come sit with us. We'll show you a good time." Ben stood up. "Hey, these ladies are with us. Show some respect." "Who the hell is this clown?" One of them, a buzz-cut guy in a jacket, snarled, poking a finger in Ben's face. The fire I had been suppressing erupted. I grabbed a beer bottle from the table and smashed it over the jacket guy's head. Instantly, his 2 friends grabbed their own bottles and lunged at me. I instinctively pushed Micah behind me, but Milan was left exposed. I dodged one bottle and kicked another guy to the ground, but the last one raised his bottle and brought it down, crazed, right at Milan. I tried to pull her out of the way, but it was too late. Bright red blood sprayed from the back of Ben's head. In that split second, he had thrown himself in front of Milan, shielding her with his body, taking the full force of the blow to the back of his skull. At that moment, the bar security guards finally rushed over, grabbing me and the other 2 guys. Ben collapsed on top of Milan. Her face was ashen with terror. I was panicking too. He'd been hit in the most vulnerable part of the head. I yelled at Micah, my voice trembling, call an ambulance. Micah's face was also pale, but she kept her composure, dialed 911, and gave them the address. The reality of the situation finally hit me. This whole disaster had happened because I'd come here to drink. I felt like a complete idiot and collapsed onto the ground, filled with a crushing guilt. If anything happened to Ben, how could I ever face Jenna? The bouncers found a towel to press against Ben's wound. Milan just held him, frozen. I finally regained some composure. "The ambulance will take too long. Give me your car keys. The nearest hospital is only 10 minutes from here." Milan mechanically handed me her purse. "The keys are in there." I dumped the contents onto the table, found the keys, and took Ben from her arms, running with him toward the exit. When I got her car, I remembered the R8 was a 2-seater. I cursed and ran toward my own car. Micah was right behind me. "You've been drinking? Don't make things worse. Give me the keys. I'll drive." I gestured to my jacket pocket. Micah deftly fished out the keys, unlocked the car, and I carefully placed Ben inside, cradling his head on my lap. The moment the doors were closed, Micah shot out of the parking spot and peeled around a corner. Luckily, there was no traffic. Micah had turned a 10-minute drive into 5, but for me, it felt like a year of agony. The second she stopped the car, I was out, carrying Ben into the emergency room, my heart pounding as I watched him disappear behind the swinging doors with a team of doctors and nurses. Micah leaned against the wall. I sat with my head in my hands, pulling at my hair, unable to speak. A few minutes later, Milan arrived at the hospital, followed by a couple of police officers who were there to take me to the precinct to deal with the assault. I struggled, not wanting to leave, wanting to wait for news on Ben. Just then, Micah pulled out her phone, made a call, and then walked over to the officers. "Excuse me, which one of you is Officer Evans?" One of the officers responded. Micah handed him her phone. "Sorry to bother you, but your captain wants to speak with you." The officer took the phone, listened, and nodded repeatedly. A moment later, he handed it back to Micah and gave me a cold look. "Be at the precinct tomorrow morning to give your statement." "Got it." I nodded numbly and sank back into the chair. On top of the feeling of failure, my world felt like it had gone black. I was a disaster, a walking catastrophe who dragged his friends down with him, a man who constantly needed a woman to bail him out of trouble. How had my life become this? Why? After what felt like an eternity in purgatory, the doors to the emergency room finally opened. The 3 of us, me, Micah, and Milan, shot up and rushed toward the doctor. The doctor took off his mask. "You're very lucky. It wasn't a fatal blow. He has a mild concussion. We've stitched him up. He'll be fine after some rest." A massive weight lifted from my chest. The tension that had been holding me together snapped, and I slid down the wall to the floor. I stayed there for a long, long time before I finally dared to pull out my phone and call Jenna. In the end, Jenna stayed at the hospital to be with Ben. She didn't blame me at all, which only deepened my guilt. Even now, my heart was still pounding with fear. If anything had actually happened to Ben, not even sacrificing my own life in front of Jenna would have been enough to atone for it. As Micah, Milan, and I were about to leave, Ava, having heard the news, also rushed to the hospital. We only exchanged a brief glance before she went straight into Ben's room. At that moment, I I was genuinely happy for her. By giving up on a screw-up like me, she had saved herself from a world of trouble and painful choices. After Micah dropped me off at my apartment, I sat on the sofa, chain-smoking, my mind racing. Finally, I stubbed out the cigarette, looked at Micah sitting across from me, and asked, "You must be very disappointed in me, right?" Micah didn't speak for a long time, but her silence was an answer in itself. A suffocating feeling tightened in my chest. I had started the evening with joy, wanting to give her flowers and take her to a candlelight dinner, and it had ended like this. It all came down to my damn pride. Why else would I have gone to a bar to get drunk? But what was the root of that pride? In the end, it was because I had no money, no status. When I couldn't live freely in the real world, I armed myself with pride, hiding inside its shell to find some pathetic scrap of comfort. Micah, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. "Leo, can you please grow up? This is the second time you've gotten into a fight at a bar." I couldn't stand them pointing their fingers at my friend's face, and I couldn't stand the filthy things they were saying about you. Micah fell silent again. I knew she was touched, so she couldn't bring herself to scold me further. But I also knew she hated my recklessness. There were 100 ways to handle the situation tonight, and I had chosen the most extreme one. By throwing the first punch, I had turned a justifiable defense into an assault and nearly gotten my best friend killed. I was defending Ben, yes, but compared to him almost losing his life, was my defense really the right thing to do? After Micah left, I sat alone in the dark room. The darkness brought a strange calm, and I began to reflect on my life. I couldn't remember when, exactly, I had let pride take over, turning me into a hedgehog with spines that pointed inward, stabbing myself over and over, and then pouring salt on the wounds. I don't want to be that hedgehog anymore. Even if pulling out the spines meant enduring immense pain, I was willing to do it. With a heavy sigh, I finally pulled out my phone and sent a text to Ava. "Are you free tomorrow? I'd like to talk about that advertising business." As I sent the message, I felt a sharp sting, like the pain of pulling out a spine. But I needed the money. In this society, living on some fantasy of self-respect wouldn't earn you any real dignity. A career and financial stability. Those were the foundations of survival in the real world. Even though I was turning to Ava for help, I refused to feel ashamed. If I could land this deal, at least I would have earned it through effort. It wasn't a handout. I could just pretend Ava was the CEO of some random ad agency who was assigning me to this project. A moment later, a reply came. "How about after work tomorrow?" "Okay, you pick the place. Anywhere is fine. I'm just curious. What made you change your mind?" I stared at the message for a long time, subconsciously lighting a cigarette. Finally, I typed out a reply. "Because my life has become unrecognizable." The night grew deeper. The wind slipped through a crack in the window, making the curtains stir. In the gap, I could see the moonlight spilling into the room. It was so bright and clear that I found myself mesmerized, until the buzz of another text message broke the silence. It was from Ava, a reply that came a full 15 minutes later. "I understand. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., Starbucks at Pioneer Place." The next morning, I went to the market early, bought some beef and barley, and made a hearty soup before heading to the hospital. When I arrived, Jenna was in the bathroom washing up, and Ben was still asleep. Not wanting to wake him, I quietly placed the thermos on the bedside table and stepped out into the hallway to call Micah. She answered after a few rings. "Are you up yet?" I asked quickly. "I want to buy you some breakfast and bring it over." "No need. I'm already on my way to Seattle. I have a meeting with the State Commerce Bureau today." "Oh." Micah was silent for a moment, then said, "Don't forget to go to the precinct later to give your statement." "I won't." "Do you have enough money for the fine?" I only had a little over $1,000 left, but I toughened up. "I do. You just focus on driving. I'm hanging up." "Okay." And we both hung up. I went back into the room. Jenna was holding the thermos I brought. "What's in here?" "Beef and barley soup. It's good for you." Jenna put the thermos down, her expression stern. "Do you realize you were wrong?" "Yeah," I mumbled. "I'm a walking disaster." Jenna sighed, her voice softening. "Leo, you really need to change that temper of yours. Just think, since college, how much trouble have you gotten into? And every single time, our Ben gets caught in the crossfire. It scares me. He's not Superman, you know? He can't keep taking hits for you." "Jenna, I really know I was wrong. I'll control myself from now on. You were here all night. You should have some soup too. It's good for you especially." Jenna shot me a glare, and Ben finally woke up. I leaned in close. "You still recognize me, buddy?" "Leo." I pointed to Jenna, and her, my wife. I breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed there were no lasting effects. Jenna helped Ben to the bathroom, and I poured them both a bowl of soup. I was acting out of pure guilt, and I made a silent vow. If I ever threw the first punch again, I'd chop off my own hand. A little while later, Jenna helped Ben back out of the bathroom. I handed the first bowl of soup to Ben, then the second to Jenna, and watched them eat. After a few minutes, the door to the room suddenly opened, and the person who walked in was the last one I expected to see. Milan walked to Ben's bedside, put down a fruit basket, and asked with surprising concern, "Mr. Franklin, how are you feeling?" Ben replied, "I'm fine. A few days of rest, and I'll be out of here. Thank you for coming to visit, Director Milan." Milan smiled, glanced at Jenna, then said to Ben, "You just focus on getting better. The company will reimburse you for the medical expenses." Ben quickly replied, "Director Milan, there's no need for the company to get involved. The person who started the fight will cover the costs." Milan looked at me, her voice dripping with disdain. This lowlife also injured the other guy. To minimize the trouble, my sister negotiated a settlement where each side covers their own medical costs. Do you really think this lowlife has the money to pay for anything? Jenna stared coldly at Milan. "Miss, I appreciate you coming to see Ben, but please watch your tone." "What do you mean, lowlife?" I cut in. "Jenna, try to be understanding. She probably got bit by a dog when she was a kid and never got her rabies shot. Now she just barks at everyone she meets." Milan glared at me, on the verge of exploding. Seeing this, Ben clutched his forehead. "I'm feeling a little dizzy. Can someone get a doctor?" Everyone immediately fell silent. Jenna stood up to find a doctor, but Ben pulled her back down, a small smile on his face. "Just kidding. I was afraid you guys were going to start a fight. It's early in the morning. Let me have some peace and quiet." Milan shot me one last hateful look, then said to Ben, "Mr. Franklin, you get some rest. I won't disturb you any longer. Goodbye." "Goodbye." After Milan left, I said to Jenna, "You've been up all night. Go home and get some rest. I'll stay here with Ben." Jenna nodded. "Okay, I'll come back at noon to relieve you." She turned to Ben. "What do you want for lunch? I'll make it for you. Whatever's easy." "Oh, and when you come back, can you bring my tablet? I have a few proposals I need to review." Jenna agreed, grabbed her purse, and left. I was impressed by Ben's dedication, not forgetting work even when he was lying in a hospital bed. Once Jenna was gone, I lowered my voice. "You got any cash on you? Let me borrow some." "What for?" "To pay the fine for the fight at the precinct." Ben didn't say anything more. He took his briefcase from the cabinet, pulled out a bank card, and gave it to me, along with the pin. I clapped him on the shoulder, feeling a mix of shame and gratitude. "Man, I really screwed you over this time. You just rest here for a bit. I'll be back after I pay the fine. If we're brothers, don't talk about screwing me over," he said, patting my shoulder with a smile. "Just go pay the fine, and from now on, try to control yourself. Rein in that temper of yours." I nodded silently. I wasn't just placating him. I really did need to grow up. After turning myself in at the precinct, the officer, a guy named Evans, followed procedure and gave me a stern lecture. But when I offered to pay the fine, he told me it wasn't necessary. I was confused. He explained that before I had arrived, a woman had already come to the station and paid the fine for me. I knew it was most likely Micah's assistant. Not many people knew about this, and Milan certainly wouldn't have paid it. She probably would have been happy to see me locked up in a cell for a year or two. I couldn't quite put a name to the emotion I felt as I left the precinct, but I knew one thing. Micah still couldn't let me go, even though she was thoroughly disappointed in me. When I got back to the hospital, I returned the untouched bank card to Ben. I stayed with him until evening, then drove to the coffee shop where I was supposed to meet Ava. About 15 minutes later, I arrived at the Starbucks at Pioneer Place. Ava was already inside, sitting at a table with 2 coffees waiting. I took a deep breath before pushing open the door, reminding myself that this was just a normal business meeting. Ava was just the CEO of an ad agency. My only job was to make sure this meeting went well and, through this opportunity, earn the first real money of my life. I sat down across from Ava. She had ordered a latte for me and a cafe misto for herself. 3 years ago, whenever we went to Starbucks, this was always our order. To be honest, I wasn't used to drinking coffee anymore. It made me too prone to insomnia these days. But I didn't have the heart to change the order. I skipped the small talk and got straight to the point. "What's the situation with your company right now?" "We have 2 top-tier ad strategists, 3 top designers, and a number of senior-level planners and designers. More than enough to meet client needs." I nodded. If Ava's ad agency or a creative had that kind of talent, they had a solid foundation for negotiating with a real estate company. "Where did you find all these pros?" I asked, a little puzzled. Ava's voice was calm. "I poached some from my dad's company, and others came through friends' recommendations." I fell silent. Even though Ava had said she wouldn't use her father's resources, it was inevitable that she would accept some help when starting a business. But there was no denying it. With these industry elites on board, her company would have a much easier time getting off the ground. During my silence, Ava handed me a portfolio. These are case studies of projects our planners and designers have worked on. Familiarize yourself with them. It will be very helpful when you're in the meeting. I nodded and started flipping through it. There were several impressive ad campaigns from major real estate giants. I knew that these classic case studies alone were a huge bargaining chip. Just then, Ava's expression turned serious. Leo, I have to warn you, this project is going to be very difficult. Although we have a huge advantage in terms of our creative team, our company's advertising resources are very limited right now. So far, we haven't been able to secure a single outdoor billboard in the Portland area. And you know that real estate relies heavily on large-scale outdoor advertising. I nodded again. A lack of ad resources was indeed the biggest obstacle in negotiations. Real estate developers cared more about an agency's ad resources than its creative ability. After all, even the best campaign is useless without a platform to broadcast it. I looked at Ava, confused. If we can land a contract, how are you going to solve the ad placement problem? We'll buy ad channels from other agencies that have the resources. That's very risky. What if those ad agencies refuse to sublet their ad channels to protect themselves? That's not something you need to worry about. You just focus on the negotiation. I'll solve the ad placement problem. I looked at Ava, feeling that her statements were a bit contradictory. On the one hand, she was warning me that the lack of resources would be an obstacle in the negotiation. On the other hand, she was telling me not to worry about it and to go in with confidence. I took a sip of my coffee and didn't dwell on it. It was a classic boss move. Warn the employee to keep them on their toes, then encourage them to keep their confidence up. Ava was just a new boss who hadn't quite mastered the balance, which was why it felt contradictory. I put the portfolio she gave me into my briefcase and asked, "When are we meeting with their company?" As soon as our planners and designers come up with a preliminary plan for the project, we can schedule a meeting, probably in 3 days. You can use these next few days to get to know the projects that Keystone Properties is currently developing in Portland. I nodded. For this annual ad contract, isn't Keystone Properties going through a public bidding process? They actually had a public bidding process a while ago, but they didn't find a satisfactory ad agency. So this is both a challenge and an opportunity for us. Are you confident, Leo? I'll do my best. Ava smiled. I believe you can win this project. I gave her a simple thanks for the trust, but I knew how difficult it would be. In business, though, if you can pinpoint the client's needs and perfectly cater to them, your chances of success increase dramatically. So I needed to do some serious homework to find that crucial point. After leaving the coffee shop, Ava and I drove to the hospital to see Ben. It was 8 o'clock by the time I left. Driving home alone, I couldn't help but notice the couples on the street, huddled together, whispering sweet nothings. It made me feel a little lonely, a little helpless. It seemed that Micah and I had never really enjoyed the simple, easy parts of being in love. For example, right now, I want to buy her a scoop of Haagen-Dazs, let her lean against me and watch her happy smile. But the reality was, she was probably in Seattle right now, attending some high-end business banquet. Her status and her busy schedule meant that we rarely had these small, sweet moments. I didn't even dare to hope for them anymore. When I got back to the old apartment, I didn't waste a moment. I immediately took out the Keystone Properties project files and started studying. I knew that at this stage of my life, my career was the most important thing. I was already 27. The time I had left to fight for my future was running out. This, I suppose, was the downside of dating after you've entered the real world. You just don't have the endless time to spend with each other like you did in school. After an hour, I finally felt tired. I closed the files and stared blankly at the floor lamp across from the sofa. After a while, I suddenly felt the urge to talk to it like I used to tell it about my recent troubles, and to ask it to keep my secrets. These inanimate objects, which seemed to have no emotion, were actually the best companions when you were lonely. They would never laugh at you or get tired of you. I lit a cigarette and started rambling, until the door to the apartment opened. I stared in surprise at Micah, who had suddenly appeared in front of me. She looked just as surprised to see me. "Why are you looking at me like that? I thought you weren't coming back to Portland tonight." Micah smiled. "If I didn't come back, you'd be pretty lonely all by yourself, wouldn't you?" Knowing that Micah had come back just to be with me, the overwhelming loneliness that had just been consuming me instantly vanished. As she was changing her shoes, I said, "Don't bother. Let's go get something to eat." What are we eating?" "You'll see," I said, quickly putting on my own shoes and pulling her out the door. The temperature tonight wasn't too low. The wind that blew past us was already tinged with a hint of warmth. I had Micah wait for me outside while I went into a shop and bought 2 scoops of ice cream. I sat down next to her and handed one to her. "For you." Micah looked a little hesitant. "Are you sure?" I nodded. "Don't all girls like this stuff?" On my way home just now, I saw a girl eating it, and she looked so happy. It really lives up to that slogan. If you love her, buy her Haagen-Dazs. Micah smiled and took the ice cream from me. She leaned against my shoulder and started eating. And in this world that contained only the two of us, I finally felt like she was truly my girlfriend. After Micah finished her scoop, I handed her the other one. She looked at me. Aren't you having any? I shook my head. Watching you eat is the most comforting thing for me. Go on. Micah looked at me for a long time before taking the second scoop. This time, she ate very slowly. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her press her hand against her stomach, then quickly release it. My nerves weren't completely shot. A knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. Are you on your period? Are you having cramps? It's okay. I pulled her tightly into my arms, feeling a mix of emotion and self-reproach. I was such an idiot, making her eat ice cream when she was having cramps. Micah whispered to me, Leo, I know that sometimes because of work, I'm not caring enough and I neglect your feelings. I hope you don't blame me, but I really love just being with you like this, simple and easy. Don't say that. It's me who's not doing enough, always causing you trouble. Micah moved away from my shoulder, her voice still very soft. I found a bouquet of flowers in your car yesterday. I think you were planning to give them to me. Why didn't you? Why did you go to a bar to drink instead? Since Micah had asked, I didn't plan to hide it, but I chose a more tactful way to put it. I saw you with Abner. I figured you guys had something important to discuss, so I didn't want to bother you. Micah leaned back against my shoulder, her voice tinged with apology. Yesterday was Abner's birthday. He was having a party. I was originally going to invite you to come along, but you were afraid I wouldn't fit in with the glitz and glamour. Micah didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked, Do you really not like me being with Abner? Of course it bothers me, but you're just friends, right? Micah nodded. Yes, you're my boyfriend. I stroked her hair and whispered in her ear, Let's forget about all the unpleasantness of the past few days. Let's just be good to each other. No more drama, okay? Micah nodded in agreement. Good to each other. No more drama. I opened my arms and held her close. Does your stomach still hurt? A little. I'll make you some hot tea with honey when we get back. Okay. We got up from the bench, but Micah stopped and took my hand. What's wrong? Carrying? I smiled and bent down. Micah climbed onto my back, and I lifted her up, walking toward her car, following our shadows under the streetlights. In that moment, the long-lost feeling of happiness finally filled my heart again. I was sure Micah felt just as happy as I did. Back in the apartment, I made Micah her tea. She curled up in the corner of the sofa, sipping it, her legs resting on my lap. We shared stories and jokes, talking late into the night, until she finally fell asleep in my arms, overcome with exhaustion. I gently carried her to the bedroom, tucked her in, and gazed at her for a long time. Overcome with emotion, I leaned down and kissed her beautiful face. I wish with all my heart that we could be just like this day after day, year after year, until one day we accidentally grew old together without a care in the world. If I had any desire left in my life, this was it. 3 more days passed. During that time, I put aside all the recent unpleasantness and threw myself completely into preparing for the upcoming negotiation with Keystone Properties. To understand the company, I not only searched for information online, but also made several trips to their construction sites to see the projects for myself, so I could be truly prepared for the meeting. That afternoon, I went to Aura Creative to meet up with a real estate strategist and designer who would be my partners in this meeting. As we were about to leave, Ava walked out of her office, bag in hand, and called out to me. I looked at her, confused, thinking she had some last-minute instructions. But she just smiled. I'm coming with you. I want to see you in action during the negotiation. I immediately refused. Don't. It's not like we're going into battle. Having so many people there will give the client the impression that we're not confident. I don't think so. On the contrary, my being there will show how seriously our company is taking this project, right? In front of all her employees, I couldn't just shut her down. I finally nodded. In that case, we'd be honored to have you, Ms. CEO. Ava gave a confident smile, put on her sunglasses, and walked with an air of authority toward the company exit. The 4 of us drove to Keystone Properties in Ava's Cadillac CTS. We were first greeted by Keystone's account manager, and then we met with their director of strategic planning. The director, a man named Wallace, seemed to know Ava. He greeted her warmly as Ms. GN. Ava smiled at us. This is Mr. Wallace, the director of strategic planning at Keystone Properties. We introduced ourselves one by one. Ava then introduced us to him, and we all took our seats. Ava leaned in and whispered to me, I've had dinner with Mr. Wallace a few times before, which is how we got this meeting. He's very strict, but I hope you can maintain a good mindset, be adaptable, and nail this meeting. I nodded. Ava then introduced me to Mr. Wallace again, stating that I would be in charge of the entire presentation. I took a moment to calm myself, quickly relaxing and putting on my professional smile. Hello, Mr. Wallace. First, on behalf of Aura Creative, I'd like to express our sincere interest in partnering with Keystone Properties, and I wish you the best of luck with the sales of your current projects. Mr. Wallace smiled. Tell me, which projects are Keystone Properties currently developing? I calmly listed the names of the projects under construction. Mr. Wallace nodded again. Then tell me your personal opinion on these projects. I quickly recalled the research I had done and, still very composed, share my thoughts with him. After I finished, Mr. Wallace nodded, but his expression suddenly became serious. This year, Keystone Properties has 3 projects launching in Portland. The advertising budget from corporate is $5 million. This is a very tempting piece of business for any ad agency. But it's not that easy to win our contract. I'm sure you're aware that we had a public bidding process before, and every single ad agency that bid was eliminated. So this time, you have to give me a very good reason to choose Aura Creative. I was stunned. I had estimated the ad budget to be in the $1 to $2 million range. I never expected it to be a staggering $5 million. Ava really was bold, or maybe just recklessly ambitious. A single ad campaign of this size could support a small to medium-sized ad agency for a year. Without significant resources of its own, it was a project most wouldn't even dare to dream of. And Ava's newly established company. What kind of hardware could it possibly have? The pressure was immense. I even momentarily forgot that if I landed this deal, I would get a commission of $500,000. Mr. Wallace didn't give me a moment to think. His voice was intense, pressing. Don't tell me how many top-tier planners and designers your company has. The agencies that bid before were basically all 4 A-level firms. They weren't lacking in top talent. After he spoke, even the planner and designer with me looked lost, let alone me, the one directly in the line of fire. I could tell that this Mr. Wallace had mastered the art of negotiation. If I continued with a standard pitch now, I would be utterly defeated. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at Ava. Even her face showed a hint of nervousness. I was sure that if she were the one leading this negotiation, her carefully planned presentation would have been completely derailed by his unconventional approach. I forced myself to calm down, my mind racing, trying to think of what unique advantages Aura Creative had that other agencies didn't. The result was only more panic. I couldn't think of a single unique advantage, only a long list of disadvantages. I knew that this was a one-shot deal. If I couldn't seize this opportunity now, there would be no second chances. So I forced myself to overcome my nerves, trying to buy myself a little time to think. I smiled, my voice frank. Mr. Wallace, to be honest with you, I'm very nervous right now. Your understanding of the advertising industry has completely thrown off my game plan. Compared to other ad agencies, our company doesn't have any obvious advantages. In fact, we have more disadvantages. But there's one thing we have that other ad agencies don't. Mr. Wallace seemed to enjoy my admission. He smiled, his patience holding. And what advantage is that? Tell me. In that moment, I had no idea what the advantage was. I was just stalling. So I said to him, I'd like to smoke a cigarette if you don't mind. Is that okay? Mr. Wallace nodded and gestured. Understand. Go ahead. I took a pack of cigarettes out of my pocket. To my surprise, Mr. Wallace made a gesture for one. I offered him one and lit it for him. He took a drag and said, I used to spend some time in Chicago. Smoked this brand all the time. Kinda miss it. I nodded and lit one for myself. While I smoked, I racked my brain again, searching for that unique advantage. It was less about thinking and more about inventing because I knew that this so-called unique advantage didn't actually exist. But I still had to make one last, desperate attempt. Besides Mr. Wallace, everyone on my team was looking at me with apprehension. The cigarette in my hand was burning down to the filter, and the time I had left to think was running out. I still hadn't found the right words, and the panic was rising, my palms slick with sweat. The cigarette was finally, unstoppably gone. An idea suddenly exploded in my mind, but it was so audacious, so heretical, that a wave of fear followed it. In that fleeting, crucial moment, a strange calm washed over me. I stubbed out the cigarette in the ashtray. My eyes fell on a glass tumbler next to it. I grabbed it and, in one swift motion, smashed it on the floor. After the sharp crack of shattering glass, the room fell dead silent. The planner and designer with me were so shocked their faces went white. Ava shot up from the sofa, staring at me, stunned. In the deathly silence, I smiled. We have something other ad agencies don't. We're bold and reckless. Mr. Wallace pulled out a tissue and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He waved away the security guard who had come running at the sound, then turned back to me. Explain this bold and reckless to me. If I'm not satisfied, you'll be paying for that glass, and then some. I steady my emotions again, still smiling. Of the 3 projects Keystone is currently developing, 2 are apartment buildings aimed primarily at white-collar professionals who are under immense stress. They're busy with work, busy with social lives, but their personal lives are chronically repressed. They need a shattering release. Like the thrill I just got from smashing that glass. I believe my action just now qualifies as bold and reckless. And only a bold and reckless company like ours, a young upstart that isn't afraid of anything, can create a campaign theme that truly resonates with the needs of urban professionals. And if you were to create it, what theme would you give me? My thoughts were like a flash flood now, rushing out without a second of hesitation. Shatter your life. Explode with joy. Shatter your life. Explode with joy. Mr. Wallace repeated the theme, then started clapping. People in advertising are either lunatics or geniuses. I hope you're a genius. The recent agencies that bid on this gave us nothing but piles of emotionless data and company credentials. I was sick of that cookie-cutter approach. Today, in you, I've seen that boldness, that madness an ad man should have. Our 2 youth-oriented apartment projects need this kind of breakthrough campaign. A look of joy spread across Ava's face. Mr. Wallace, does that mean you're willing to work with our company? Personally, I am very interested in working with Aura Creative. However, I still need to submit this to the senior executives for their review and decision. Leave your company's information and your previous real estate campaign case studies. Wait for a call. Ava nodded and handed the portfolio to Mr. Wallace. My own palms were now completely drenched in sweat. After some more discussion about the creative concept, we finally left Keystone Properties. On the way back, Ava was visibly excited. Leo, your performance just now was reckless, but it was a true expression of your personality. It was brilliant. I just smiled, not saying anything. It had been a long time since I'd shown that kind of audacity. Life had nearly worn all my sharp edges smooth. Ava smiled back. Can you tell me, in that split second when you smashed the glass, what were you thinking? It was a Hail Mary. He said he hated conventional thinking, so I gave him something exciting. Ava nodded. If we can win this Keystone contract, you'll get all the credit. They haven't even confirmed they're working with us yet. You should calm down. The bigger the hope, the bigger the disappointment. Ava shook her head. I know Mr. Wallace very well. He will definitely fight for this with his superiors. Given his position at Keystone, there's a good chance we'll get the contract. I was puzzled. You know him that well? Didn't you just say you'd only had dinner a few times? Ava hesitated for a moment before replying. My knowledge of him is based on hearsay. When you're in this industry, you hear things. I didn't think any more of it and just smiled. If I can really help the company land this deal, it'll be a case of a blind squirrel finding a nut. Ava's face grew serious. You're wrong. I think it was your bold advertising spirit that won Mr. Wallace over. That evening, I turned down Ava's invitation for a celebratory dinner and went home early. I called Micah to ask if she'd be back for dinner, and she said yes, so I got busy cooking. By 7 o'clock, I had a feast prepared and sat down to wait for her. I sat on the sofa, watching the second hand on the wall clock go around and around. I started to feel tired and lay down, watching the minute hand make a full circle. I couldn't stand it anymore. I lit a cigarette, trapped in the miserable wait. I stubbed it out, opened a can of beer, and crushed the empty can in my hand. I looked at the clock again. The minute hand had gone around once more. Time suddenly seemed to stretch on forever. Micah felt further and further away, while the memories of her coming home on time grew clearer and clearer. I couldn't help but wonder, before we were dating, why did it always feel like she came home on time every day, but after we started dating, she was always late? Then it dawned on me. Before we were dating, I was always worried she would come home and kick me out, so the only memories I retained were of her timely appearances. After we started dating, I was always desperate for more time with her, so I was much more sensitive to her work-related delays. The truth was, she was just as busy before, and she still came home on time now and then. It was just that what I cared about had shifted. In that sense, falling in love really could pull 2 people further apart. You spend so much time missing them, and so little time actually being with them. The minute hand went around again. I finally fell asleep while waiting. I was exhausted today. If I had accepted Ava's invitation, I would have been even more tired after a dinner with a crowd of people. I don't know how long I slept, but I eventually felt someone shaking me. I blinked my eyes open to see Micah's beautiful but weary face. She looked at me apologetically. I could have been back by 8, but there was a safety incident at the mall, and I had to call an emergency meeting, so I got delayed. You've been waiting a long time, haven't you? I smiled. It's okay. I'll go heat up the food. You sit down and rest. Micah nodded, still looking sorry. I carried the now-cold dishes into the kitchen. This would be the fourth time I'd reheated them. As I was warming up the food, I couldn't help but think, if I could help Ava land that deal, get that commission, and then start my own business, would I have even less time to spend with Micah?